Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 292, published December 27th, 2012, the best of 2012. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Carbonite Online Backup. Automatic, continual, unlimited backup for your computer files, just $59 a year. Try it free at Carbonite.com and use offer code WINDOWS to get 2 bonus months with purchase. And by Ford, featuring Bliss, the blind spot information system with cross-traffic alert and active park assist. Check out these available features on the 2013 Ford Fusion and 2013 Ford Taurus and learn more at Ford.com/technology. Hello, everybody, and happy holidays. Leo Laporte here. It's time for Windows Weekly, but you may notice that neither Paul or Mary Jo are here. We put a fireplace in instead of their connection. And the reason is we're going to do a best of episode. We thought we'd give them the week after Christmas off. But not you. No, you have to suffer through the best of 2012 Windows Weekly. I was thinking of giving Paul a gift, the Delphi 3 Super Bible. Do you think he has this? Might be a nice thing to put under the tree for Paul. I'll just wrap that up. Better late than never. Wow, $55. That's a good deal. Huh?
I'll go wrap it.
No, it's okay. That would be funny, wouldn't it? We had a great year this year on Windows Weekly with the addition of Mary Jo Foley to the crew, and we're just having so much fun talking about Windows. This might have been the most important year in the history of Microsoft since its very beginning, and there's certainly a lot to talk about. Before we get to the best of, I would like to throw out a little plug for backing up your computer, and if you're going to do it right with Carbonite. Absolutely. Carbonite Online Backup. It's safe. It's secure. 128-bit SSL. Whenever you're online on your laptop or your desktop, Carbonite is backing up automatically, continuously to the internet. It's using, as I said, SSL, but you can even use more encryption, trust no one encryption. Only you have the key if you want ultimate privacy. I like that about Carbonite. Works on Macs or PCs. They also have additional kinds of Carbonite accounts for small businesses and so forth. But the basic plan, which is enough for most people, is $59 a year. That's less than $5 a month, and it covers everything on your computer. Back up all your personal documents, your financial records, your photos, your emails, anything that you created that you just don't want to lose. Carbonite will keep it safe. You can also get to it any time on your Carbonite account. Just log on any computer or use their smartphone apps, and there's your stuff. So it's cloud storage too. Carbonite, $59 a year, but you could try it free for 2 weeks right now. Visit Carbonite.com and use our offer code WINDOWS. You get a free trial. You don't need a credit card. If you decide to buy, you'll be glad you used the offer code WINDOWS because you'll get 14 months for the price of 12. 2 free months. You got to back it up to get it back. Do it right with Carbonite. We thank Carbonite so much for sponsoring the show through 2012, and we look forward to working with them more in 2013. It's my dream that everybody in 2013 will use Carbonite to back up their systems, and never again will we have to hear the plaintive cry, "I lost my data! I lost my data!" Now we continue on with the best of Windows Weekly. Last night, Steve Ballmer gave the last keynote.
It's like the last Mohican.
Yeah, it is. Microsoft has announced that it won't be back next year for the Consumer Electronics Show. And so we thought it would be pretty important. We streamed it live, and I am told you guys did. I couldn't watch it. I was on a plane. But I'm told you guys did a great job as the snarky kids in the back of the class.
It was my finest hour, Leo.
So, I felt like we were at the Rose Bowl parade narrating what was happening.
And here comes the amazing 13-voice tweet choir. They're about to sing tweets. That was a strange.
Make it no.
I
have no idea what they were saying. I still have no idea what that was about.
Hashtag
I thought they were going to live sing actual tweets, which would have been fairly interesting.
Well, I thought that's what they were doing, wasn't it?
I think they did.
Oh, they did.
But I don't know where they were getting them from, and did they have to? This is me, but I'm sitting there watching. I'm thinking, did they have to memorize those tweets just a second ago backstage? How are they knowing what to sing?
And I don't mean to be sacrilegious, but didn't every single one of them have one of those priest collars on?
They did. It was just. I think it was. Just
were they all priests?
No, it's.
I think it said Las Vegas Mirage on them, though, didn't it?
No, I think it was a religious choir, but I don't know.
I'm pretty sure one of them was the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers too. The whole thing was very strange.
He did look like that, didn't he? That's
yeah, he did.
So, but that isn't, of course, the most important part. The most important part was that Ryan Seacrest was on stage.
Right. It was nice to focus in on that with laser-like precision.
I thought actually that was a good idea because it made it more relaxed. It gave Steve a chance to talk instead of, prance around.
Which night do you think was bigger for Ryan Seacrest, New Year's Eve or the Microsoft keynote at CES?
I think speaking to Steve Ballmer probably is much like speaking to Dick Clark. They're probably a good training one. No, that's not right. So
there's no recovery.
There was a big announcement, and you had predicted last week that there would be a Connect for Windows, and indeed there is. Is it exactly what you thought we would see?
I guess I didn't know what I thought it was going to look like, and so when the picture came out, at first there was a false alarm. Somebody from NeoWen took a picture of something. I'm like, is that it? And everyone's like, no, but it looks exactly like the Connect for the Xbox, I believe. It's just the innards that are different and the development kit, but it looks just like the Connect we already know.
Which is actually too bad. They should have made, and maybe they will, some sort of a mount for this thing so that it can mount on top of a monitor, because isn't that how most people will, or many people would typically use it?
Or in front of the monitor. I put my Connect at the bottom of the TV. I mean, the big thing is it's $250, same price as a consumer Connect. It's available February 1st, but the big thing is you can be closer to it, which you said you would have to do because Connect.
I've always wanted to get closer to the Connect, so this is going to be nice for me.
Stop it! What are you eating? Is that a brownie?
It's a double chocolate chip cookie from Acre.
That's no cookie. Mm-hmm. Double chocolate chip cookie from Acre. Why are you going to Starbucks when you could be going to Acre? Seriously.
My goodness.
Don't let that lady drive you. Tell her Acre's better. Acre's better. What are you getting at Starbucks that you couldn't get at Acre? All right, go ahead.
Can we put an order in too?
Yeah, what would you guys like?
Yeah, really.
My favorite part of
myself.
Tech TV, my favorite part, this started happening in the screensavers, I guess because, I don't know, I had already done a show and I was tired, and we'd get an intern to go out, and the Starbucks order would come like 3 seconds before air. It was so fun. And the tray, sometimes it would come after the show had started, and I wouldn't stop. I would say, bring it here! And we'd be on the air, and they'd bring it in. It was so awesome. Memories. All right, I'm ready to begin.
I could ask my wife to make espresso, but then she would just mock me.
Why? Does she not believe in espresso?
No, she believes in me making it myself.
Oh, yeah. Well, normally, this is why. The flu is sweeping the TWiT brick house.
Yeah.
And John Slanina, who normally does, in fact, fetch my coffee, is not here. He is out ill. So I will not have the coffee today.
I'm sorry.
Okay, just have to paint in a few features on Paul's face.
Do you want me to grow like a handlebar mustache or something?
If this only had some ink on it. This is actually a capacitive brush for an iPad or a touch screen of some kind. Isn't that wild?
It actually has a dead human finger on the tip of it.
It does. Mrs. Mary Jo Foley, the ZDNet blogger at allaboutmicrosoft.com, the author of Microsoft 2.0, What They Left Out in 1.0, and other fine novels. And
Windows Live edition.
Yes, Windows Live. I'm glad to be back. I missed you guys. Norway's fun.
Yeah.
But there's only so much dried fish one can eat.
Oh.
Yum. Actually, a lot of beer. Good beer. You would like the beer in Norway, Mary Jo.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was fun. And very nice people. And you know what a safe country. You could just leave your stuff lying around. I just left stuff lying. I put my wallet on a wall and walked away. Just leave it lying around. I'll tell you how honest they are. We're in the train from Bergen to Oslo. Beautiful train, by the way, in which, and Paul, you might be interested in this, we go through the planet of Hoth.
Nice.
Empire Strikes Back was shot.
Yes, at the hotel.
In the mountains, yeah. And in fact, when we got on, the conductor said, "This is the stop where Harrison Ford got off by accident." and they had to send the helicopter for him to get him back to the planet Hoth. But as we're going through, it really looks like the beautiful. It's planet Hoth, and there's still snow, and even despite the fact that it's almost May, and there's lots of snow on the ground, skiers and everything. But it was gorgeous. But as we get on the train, a woman walks down the train saying, "I found this 1,000 kroner note on the floor. Anybody drop now 1,000 kroner note is like hundreds of dollars." And she's saying, "Anybody lose this?" And nobody's saying anything. First, she's really honest. Second, everybody else on the train is really, because they can say, oh, yeah, that's mine. No. She's waving it all the way down the train. So that's Norway for you right there. Smoked fish, planet Hoth, and honest people.
Those things don't seem to mix. You think the suicide rate would be through the roof?
No.
It's
very jolly, very jolly people. They're like the Germans with a sense of humor.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, we have to eat smoked fish today, but at least tomorrow will be -10, so we have that to look forward to.
We were, Christiansen is right on the Atlantic Ocean, and so it is not as cold as Oslo because the ocean moderates the temperatures, and it only gets
the warm breeze off the North Atlantic. Yeah.
And then as we're on the boat, the captain says, "It is a beautiful day, very unusual. You can look on the horizon, that plume of smoke. That is the oil rig." We never see that, he says. There it is, pumping smoke.
People in Massachusetts are right about those wind farm things, right? Which are arguably okay looking.
Yeah. No, we got oil.
Certainly not smoky.
They love it in Norway, though, because Norway was really a poor country until in the 60s it discovered oil, and it made them a very wealthy nation. So they're the Dubai of the North, basically.
Yeah, the playboys of Europe.
Hey, Mary Jo. Hey, Paul. Good to see you. Thank you. It was Ayaz last week, wasn't it? Thank you for filling in, Ayaz. I appreciate it. But we're back to work now. No more fun and games for you two. Let's kick things off with a little eulogy for Live. Windows Live.
I wonder if they'll do a last, what do you call it? Not Las Vegas.
Last rites.
New Orleans style funeral.
Oh, wouldn't that be good with a jazz band,
they
Dixieland
dance
band?
and play the trumpets.
Oh, when the saints come marching in, it's dead. So joining
Windows
Clippy,
Live is dead, the headline of the week.
Joining Clippy and Windows XP, Windows Live. Wait a minute, it's not dead. They just renamed it, right? All the features are still there. What?
Mostly. Some, we think. We're not positive.
But Windows Live is so great. Why would they kill it?
I have to say, we're about, 8 months now into this building Windows 8 blog thing, and I have to say, I think we're actually finally starting to get good at it. Because they never say what they mean. And you really have to read between the lines, and you have to pay attention to what they say. In this case, they provided a chart or a table, where they showed this is what this is going to become, and you will actually find most of what you need to know in this table. So, for example,
they're saying Windows Live reimagined.
Yeah, it's reimagined. Reimagined as a dead thing. So
imagine, if you will.
Well, so for example, one of the things that's not in that table is Windows Live Writer.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I love. It's the blog tool.
So it's dead, right? I think Windows Live Writer is fun. Yes.
It may not be dead. It may not be dead because
this
morning I tweeted to Chris Jones. I said, Windows Live Writer, dead, not dead. He just tweeted back a few minutes ago and said, no, it'll be available as a Windows 8 app.
As a Windows 8
It's not on that chart.
The whole thing is really, they're all apps now, right? So,
right.
SkyDrive is the SkyDrive app. Office is the Office app.
Well, they're not
Email
all
is the Mail app.
Not all of them. Not all
No?
of them. So a lot of the this is yet another indication that they're drawing a line between what we've called like consumption-style apps and productivity apps, where there's a couple of productivity bits in there that are going to continue. Windows Live Photo Gallery is an example, and Windows Live Movie Maker. Those things are going to continue as Windows applications, is what it looks like. There's a Photos app that has nothing to do with photo editing, but is everything about photo viewing. And so that thing will be in Windows 8 as an app. You know, mail, calendar, contacts, and messaging, all apps.
All apps. But they will still
Windows
have,
Live
they will
Writer,
live on with live addresses, calendar.live.com, right?
We'll scroll up. See, I don't.
Yeah,
that's just the web.
That's the web, HTML5. So live.com's not gone.
We don't.
We don't know.
I'd be surprised.
Well, what's this column for then?
I know.
Well, that's what it is now.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Yeah. And
These
so the
things are
table's
not as
arranged in a weird
one-to-one
way.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing it is now is on the right.
This is the thing it is now. And then the
Yeah.
two things on the left, Windows 8 and Windows Phone, are the things they will be in the future.
Well, no, Windows Phone is now actually.
Okay.
That's as it exists now.
You'll forgive my confusion.
No, no, no. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's so. For example, Live Mesh. We wondered last week when,
This obfuscates everything.
and yet I think reveals a lot if you pay attention to it. Right? I mean, Windows Live Mesh. We wondered last week, is this thing dead? Because
Right.
SkyDrive app kind of does a lot of it, but not all of it.
Right.
Windows Live Mesh
Not mentioned.
well, it is mentioned. See, it's
it's
over there on the
mentioned.
right.
Right, there it is.
There it was, but then when you go over to the left, there it isn't. And I think that says it's gone.
So it
I
was
think
in
that-
earlier versions, you had Folder Share Live Mesh, Windows Live Mesh. In Windows 8, you have SkyDrive app and SkyDrive Desktop.
Yeah, I think by
that
explicitly-
supersedes all of these.
Right. In other words, they mentioned it. That means it's gone. You know, Windows Live Mail, gone.
It's now just the mail app.
Right.
But that's all it was anyway. Come on.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, but Windows Live Writer is an example of something that exists today that is not in the right-hand side of the chart. So we all assumed it was gone,
Right.
Since they didn't even mention it.
It's not
but
even mentioned.
now I'd say maybe it's not gone. Maybe it's
actually,
staying.
throw the chart up one more time.
I will throw
Because
it up.
there is another confusing little area in there
Yes,
that I
yes.
believe is misreported or
Okay.
all right. Noted. So MSN Messenger
Yeah.
is listed over on the right for some reason.
Yeah.
Even though the current version of that thing is actually Windows Live
It
Messenger.
hasn't been MSN Messenger for a while.
No, for years and years. Maybe since 2005. It's been a long time.
Jeez Louise.
So why isn't Windows Live Messenger there? And what is the fate of Windows Live Messenger? I know there's a messaging app, but the messaging app in Windows 8, at least today, doesn't do everything that Windows Live Messenger does. Now, one possible solution is obviously that Messenger continues, which actually I wouldn't be too surprised by. But the other one is, what if they just use Skype as their Windows-based messaging type client, an application?
Oh, wow.
Skype isn't mentioned in there at all.
Nope. Oh, right.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. We're very excited. As long as we're talking, Paul, I'd just like to make the announcement. The Butter and Eggs Day Parade is coming to town. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited.
Wow.
And just so if you'd like to come out, Sunday, April 29th.
I just want to be clear about what I'm looking at, because it says River of Dreams on it now. Is that a river of milk?
It's a milky river of dreams with some eggs on the side in case you want to make an omelet.
Wow.
Because butter and eggs are no longer the principal products of Petaluma.
Podcasts and radio shows.
Podcast and Wine Day was taken.
Does the feed bank in Petaluma actually function as a feed bank?
We have a number of. In fact, the next time you come out here, I'll take you on a tour of the feed mills, the silage. If you're into silage, there's no better place than Petaluma. And if you come, what's nice, if you come
I don't even know how to respond to that.
In the spring and the fall, you really ought to come out for fertilizer days, where the entire town smells like cow poop for like a week. It is great.
Wow.
Yes, it's fertilizer days in Petaluma. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No, that's life in an agrarian.
We had friends who used to live behind a slaughterhouse, so I kind of appreciate
that's the worst.
Yeah.
No, actually, the worse than a slaughterhouse, and I don't know if they did it there, is a rendering plant.
Yes.
That's probably the stinkiest thing I've ever smelled. Worse
I'm
than
looking
a chicken
for some
farm.
liquid. I would like some liquid that used to be an animal.
Worse than a paper mill.
Do you have such a thing?
Worse than a tire factory. It's the rendering plant. You don't want to be there. I worked at a radio station for one day that was hosted next door to a rendering plant. And I said, that's it. I'm never working there again. Bye.
Nice.
All right, my friend, Paul Thurrott, editor-in-chief, the SuperSite for Windows. It has been a slice. We will have Mary Jo back. I'm sorry to say next week.
Hopefully my coughing attacks will be done.
I'll just have to put on pants for the next one. So we have a couple of Kiwis in the studio today. Danny and Peter, they're on their way to Las Vegas to get married. Isn't that cute? So they're visiting us from where in New Zealand? Auckland. That's great. Well, thank you for joining us. And
I have a running gag with people from Australia that I'll just express this way. I want to tell the people from New Zealand that I like their country much better than Australia. And that I recognize that these are two completely separate places and that one of them is infinitely better than the other. When you buy a movie from iTunes, it's associated with your account.
Right.
It's not associated with the PC to which you first downloaded it, right? You're not manually managing that thing anymore. And they're taking that concept and they're applying it to software. So today
that's a
in
good
Office
way to put
2010
it. That's a good way to put it, yeah.
In Office 2010, you're buying a thing. And when you install it onto a PC, you're done with it. That's it. Unless you have 2 licenses or, a home and student has 3 licenses. But what you're doing there is associating a product key with a particular piece of hardware. And the thing with Office, which is sort of what I think people like us have been talking about for a long time, but which Microsoft is really embracing, is the notion that Office belongs to you and that your representative in the online world is, of course, your ID, your Microsoft account, and it's associated with that. And if you use one of these Office subscriptions, which is particularly interesting to me, you get 5 installs. And you can decommission them. So the product key doesn't get blown away because you applied it to a certain PC. You can, from the cloud, say, no, this PC is gone. I'm going to use it on this one instead.
You don't even have to do it from that PC.
No,
you don't
do not have to uninstall it. You can do it remotely from the cloud.
This is so.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you only need one because how many? I mean, no, you don't work on 2 at a time. So having 5 is almost gravy. That just kind of makes it easy to move back and forth, I guess.
This is if you do the subscription version, right? Which is part of the other big change, and maybe the one big question that we have, because one of the things they'll be doing with this version is, if you want to, you can go to a store and buy something. It may be a disc, it may be a card. It doesn't really matter, but you can buy a single copy of it, like we do, like we do now. But the way they want you to do this is to subscribe to it through a service. And it's interesting because even though we don't know what the prices of those services will be, assuming they don't, assuming they don't price themselves out of the market, which I don't see happening, I think they've latched onto a model that's finally going to work for software as a subscription service. Whereas maybe a year ago, if we had this discussion and I said, hey, you could subscribe to Office 2010 for $10 a month, people would have been like, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure that works.
Well, they've had Office 365 for a while, and that's how that works, right?
Yeah, but that's a different thing.
But that's web-based.
No, I mean, it's that's email, document, collaboration stuff, communications potentially. This is literally the Office software as part of it.
But this is something you could do with Office 2010 if you were one of those people who wanted to pay for the local software on a subscription basis.
Right.
I mean, they kind of paved the way with some of the things they did in Office 2010, and this is just the realization of, okay, some people do want to buy Office this way and pay on a monthly basis or a yearly basis. And the people I talked to this week, the first question everybody asked me was, so you can still install it locally, right?
Yep,
they're not taking that away, are they? And I think they kind of did the best of both worlds this week. They said, don't worry, we're not taking your local copy away if you're one of those people who's not ready for the cloud.
You know what, though? I think those people are going to be won over by and large because I don't think this is going to be a slow transition. I do believe that for this generation of software, the majority of these things are going to be click-to-run installs because the benefit of it is going to be so overwhelmingly great that they're just not going to want to do it. Because the way they're going to make it is that the IS or the MSI type install, the type of install you would buy today in a retail store, is going to be a little more expensive. It'll be one PC. Or you could do this thing where you get constant upgrades, you get the next version. Maybe it's $5, $10 a month, whatever they charge for the home version, and it works on 5 computers. I mean, people can be like, duh, it's going to be such a no-brainer.
We'll see.
Yeah,
I think we're going to – the same people who hated Microsoft dumping small business server are the people who are going to hate the idea of this, right?
Yeah, but I don't actually think that's a big audience. It's
the way things are going, but it's nice that they gave people an out.
Can you give me, so I understand it, what the choices are for Office 2013?
I know. The naming is so horrible. When I saw the names, I was like, no.
Well, I'll write this down. I'll write this down.
So this is my combo tip pick. So
okay. Well, save it for your tip pick.
I think the high level thing to say would be, and they did this on purpose just to get people used to this. That as of today, we have this thing called Office 365. It is a business class set of services, aimed at taking Microsoft's on-prem servers and putting them in the cloud. So you get Exchange, SharePoint, Link. That's all it is. There's no, well, actually, that's not true. If the enterprise version, you can get Office with that as well. But what you're getting with when you get Office through the enterprise version of Exchange is that, the ISO, MSI type install. What they're doing going forward is saying, okay, Office 365 is our Office in the cloud. And by the way, I think it's pertinent and important to note that Office 365 doesn't have a version number or a year associated with it, right? Because you're on the subscription cycle.
Yeah.
You get it. And if the Office 2016 suite comes out or whatever they call that, you just get it. You don't have to think about it. But they're adding Office to it. In fact, it's particularly notable that the base version of Office 365 going forward will not, in fact, include anything that we now associate with Office 365. So, in fact, right? It's a little strange, but Office Home, I think they're calling it Office 365 Home Premium, assumes that using Microsoft's consumer class email storage and so forth and messaging, meaning Windows Live, what we used to call Windows Live, Hotmail, SkyDrive, and Windows Live Messenger, whatever those things may be called going forward. So that's interesting. It's a big change, and it's funny. So you're telling me that there's a version of Office 365 that's for consumers, and it doesn't include anything that used to be in Office 365, and now you're telling me that this thing that used to come on all these, like the last floppy version of Office probably had like 136 floppies in the box.
Yeah.
But now I can deliver that to my desktop from the cloud in 90 seconds. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It's crazy.
That sounds to me like a lot of the code is still in the cloud, right? We're running stuff from the cloud.
Actually, it's not. Well, after 90 seconds it is. But what it does, so within 5 minutes you have all of it. And this installer, it's like what they did with Windows 8. I don't mean technically, I mean conceptually, in that it is so much faster than its predecessor, it almost doesn't make sense. And by its predecessor, I mean the MSI-based version, the way we used to install Office, the way we still install Office to this day. It's just
click to run, right? Isn't that called click to run today? Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm here.
It's still there
on,
today.
I'm on the consumer preview site.
Yep.
Because I think people probably want to install and follow along.
Okay.
Can I just?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you? No, you can't, Leo. No,
Please. By the way, I just want to point out, and this is weird. I don't know when they started doing this. This video embedded on the Microsoft website is on YouTube. It's a YouTube video.
Yeah.
When did they start doing that? How come they don't serve their own videos? They are Microsoft. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just interesting.
Actually, I think it's hilarious to make Google pay for that bandwidth.
Yeah, no kidding.
And if Office is really successful, it's going to cost Google in two different ways. So
it looks like I download these there's Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, and Outlook.
That is just to learn more. So if about those apps.
Okay. Do I sign up?
But click the Learn More that's underneath it.
Okay. We're going to walk through this. So learn more. Don't sign up. Click the Try It button.
Okay. Click the Try It button.
Is that right?
Yeah, go ahead. It will give you it should give you some columns. Yeah. So
okay,
the first one on the left is what I just described, the consumer service.
This is for Home Premium, Office 365 Home Premium.
It does not include Exchange, SharePoint, or Link.
That's fine. Link, though, you might want Link because that's like Skype.
You're going to get Skype. Skype is in the final version of Office. That will be. It's not.
You're going to get with that SKU. You get 60 minutes of Skype credits per month.
Too. Oh, that's good. You
also get 20 gigabytes of additional SkyDrive storage.
Yep.
This is great. Okay, that's the Home Premium. That's the 5 household PCs. Then there's a Small Business Premium.
Now, so one of the big conceptual differences as you move off of Home is that you move into a situation where you have multiple accounts, right?
Yeah.
So on the first one, that's Office 365 for a person. It's one account. You can install it on up to 5 PCs.
That sounds like what I'm going to get.
You also get device installs, by the way. And they're not specifying yet how many, but there may not be a hard limit. I'm not sure, but it's going to work the way that it works today with the Zune PC software, where you associate a number of devices with your account.
Can I have a little sidebar real quick?
Yeah.
None of this is for the Macintosh.
That's not true. So Office for Mac is included in this. It's just that for the customer preview that we have today, it's not really built in. They will include
I pay
Office.
one license, I get Windows and Mac?
Yeah, so you could have 2 copies of Mac, 3 on Windows.
But I think it's not a new version of Office for Mac, right? It's Office for Mac 2011.
I don't care. It's still an Office.
If you don't care.
Yeah, well, eventually I want a new one.
Yeah, but they are going to make a new version for the Mac. So it will include that upgrade when that comes.
I am so
Right.
happy.
We just don't know when.
I want it for both. And oh, well, now, as long as you're doing that, can I have it for the iPad, iPhone, Android phone?
Actually, I have news about that too. So you may recall that we had, I think, speculated, or I don't remember how we worded it, but that we've heard, both Mary Jo and I, that Office was coming for iOS and for Android, and that we're not sure on the timing and how it's going to work and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I have a theory about it, and then I also have some news about it. And the theory is that Microsoft will only deliver the device-based versions of Office through these Office 365 services, so that instead of going to, say, the App Store on iTunes and buying a copy of Office or whatever, or an Office app, similar to the way that Apple sells their iWork apps, and then associating that with your Apple ID, you would instead subscribe to Office 365. And that as part of your Office 365 subscription, you get 5 copies of Office that you can install on your PCs and Macs, and then some number that you can install on iOS devices and Android devices.
Wow.
And that's how they get you to keep paying for Office even though you're using a different platform.
I will pay for this forever. This sounds great.
I know. Well, that's
So
what I'm
Paul,
saying. And that's,
Paul,
yes.
So you're saying there still will be a local copy of Office for iOS? It'll just be like downloaded to you through Click to Run? Or are you saying there won't be any local install on iPad? If you know.
He froze. He froze solid. He has nothing to say. He's thinking. Wait a minute. Let's let him think.
That was just a bad question.
Let's let him think. He's gone.
Oh.
Hey, but I just want to say I am installing this. And when they said 90 seconds, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Hope you're enjoying this Best of Windows Weekly. I know I am, and I love Paul Thurrott, and I love Mary Jo Foley. It's great to work with them, and they're just they're what they are. They have a dry wit, and that means that you may be listening to them say things and say what. But they're funny. Just kind of, if you're new to the show, if you've never listened to the show, this is a great way to start because we're doing the best moments of 2012, and by the end of this show, you will get a sense of what a funny guy Paul Thurrott is. Funny looking. Hey, we're brought to you today by Ford, the Ford Motor Company. I cannot wait. I am going to take delivery. I'm told in January. I'm very excited of my new Ford Fusion. I waited because you can get a 2013 Fusion now, but I wanted the plug-in hybrid version. So it's both electric and gas, and it's got the best EPA rating, I think 110 mpge. I mean, this is an amazing vehicle. But one reason I'm interested in it is the technology inside. I love my Ford Sync, but they've got even more now. They've got that BLISS, the blind spot information system that keeps you from merging into oncoming traffic just because you can't see it. There's always that blind spot in the two mirrors. The BLISS system has sensors in the back of the car that are looking at the lanes, and a little light lights up in the rearview mirror when there's a car in your blind spot, and there's a little audible tone, so you never have to worry about whether you can see a car or not. Same thing as you're pulling out of a parking space. If your view is obscured by a big van or truck or something, it sees around them and lets you know if there's oncoming traffic. They also have, we mentioned lane assist, the adaptive cruise control, and the parking. The active parking is amazing. It actually parks your vehicle. Now, they call it assist because you have to do a few things. You push a button. That's it. You push a button. It says looking for space. As soon as it sees yes, it finds a space. As soon as it sees a space that's big enough for your vehicle. I was driving a Ford Flex when I used this, and that's a big car. And it says, oh, there's a space. It measures it. You pull forward, and it parks. The wheel goes zzz, in 24 seconds. Parallel parks perfectly. Inches from the curb. You're perfectly aligned. You put your foot on the brake. You turn the car off. You're done. It's kind of really weird and spooky and magical. I love it. And I can't wait to use it because I'm tired of parking by hand. I want the active park assist. I want the BLISS, the blind spot information system. I want my Ford Fusion. You can get it on the 2013 Fusion and the 2013 Ford Taurus, and you can find out more at Ford.com/technology. And can I just invite you to just support a Ford dealer near you, just to go in there and bring them a little hot cocoa, give them a little back rub, and say, by the way, I'm here to try the active park assist. He'll love you for that. Just tell him Leo sent you. Ford, twitter.com/technology. And we thank Ford. We thank Ford for being a part of our network for so long. They're a great sponsor, and we're just thrilled to have them with us. Now, we conclude with the best of Windows Weekly. Paul and Mary Jo. We asked Google. They said, over our dead bodies, basically.
Unbelievable.
This is the argument over Do Not Track. And personally, I think Do Not Track is way
Here's the
overblown.
problem.
You've
Do Not
heard me
Track
say
sucks,
this.
but Do Not Track is terrible. And the reason it's terrible is that it requires advertisers to opt in. They have to respect the browser setting.
Right.
Which means that most advertisers, or many, will not do that. And now that this kind of consortium or cabal or whatever you want to call these people of advertisers has gotten together and changed the spec so that this thing has to be opt-in, that it has to be disabled by default. Microsoft only has two choices. They could just continue doing what they were going to do,
which means everybody would ignore it.
They'll just ignore it. It's useless.
Yep.
It shouldn't even be there.
Yep.
Or they could do what some have suggested to me, which I think is an interesting idea, which is, the first time you run the browser, something pops up.
There you go.
So it's disabled,
that's
but you
what
have a
they'll
little
do.
wizard you can step through.
That's
I
what they'll
think
do.
That's probably what they're going to have to do.
Google's never going to do it in Chrome because Google's business is tracking ads. As ads. Now, I don't think ad tracking is at all the problem that people have blown it up into. And you're an example, Paul. Your site is supported by ad networks. So it wouldn't affect me, by the way. But your site is supported by ad networks. It would affect you.
Right, but I still think it's the right thing to do. It's not about displaying ads, right? We're not talking about blocking ads.
No.
We're talking about ads that track you across the internet after you leave a site.
Ad networks that serve to, for instance,
this is insidious Big Brother stuff,
Google.
right? This is when people talk. No, it is. When people talk about big data type things, right? You've heard the classic example of big data gone wrong, right? Where the guy or whoever it is signs into Facebook one day and has a friend recommendation, and they don't recognize the person,
right?
And they're like, "Well, Facebook must
time.
have given me this for a reason, so I will accept it." And then when they accept it, they find out that the person that they just friended is also married to their spouse, and that this person is a polygamist, and that's how.
Nothing wrong with that. I think
how Facebook made this
Facebook's
connection.
done him a favor.
Okay,
that actually something very similar did happen. Actually, that's a true story.
Right, it's a true story. It's a true story.
It's a weird true story, but it's a true story.
Hopefully doesn't happen to a lot of people. But anyway, obviously that's kind of scary. And I think there's an insidious nature to this stuff that tracks you as you move around the internet stuff. You can see hints of it in in Gmail when those weird ads pop up that are sort of related to what you're talking about. I get a lot of emails. Actually, this one might be fascinating to you. I get a lot of email from people who want quotes on my Windows services, right? They want quotes on Windows that I apparently sell, okay? Now, I can only guess that I get these weird emails because I write about Windows. But you know what I got the other day for the first time?
What?
And think about this. This is crazy. I got a similar email from someone who wanted a quote on tiles, right? Because
you were talking
Windows
about
is
tiles.
switching to tiles. What the hell is that?
Would you like some fine Venetian ceramic glass tiles?
Yep. I always write these guys back, and I'm saying I'm happy to help you. Just send me your credit card information, and we'll get that started.
I get weird ads. Look at this is the ad I'm getting right now. This is, believe it or not, looking at the ad, you wouldn't know what that is, but it's actually for steel power equipment. It's for drills and stuff from some company that is so far away that I really wouldn't go there even if I wanted a weed whacker.
It looks like the image you'd see on a calendar in an auto body shop.
I think it probably is.
I used to get ads for watches because I did Microsoft Watch. My ads would show up as watches.
But that's my point, is that this is a company that does tracking ads better than anyone. They know more about you than anybody, Paul. And it's so ineffective. It's so horrible. They just don't work. And what your complaint really is that they're not tracking you well enough.
I didn't really think of it that way.
But think about it. You would like ads that are more appropriate, not less appropriate.
Actually, what I really want is not to have ads.
Well, that's okay. And that's what I'm saying. The whole do not track thing really comes down to people don't want ads, period.
Sure.
That's really what they're saying. And I'm sorry, people want free media, free services like Facebook, but they don't want ads. It doesn't work.
Right.
So that's why I think do not track is missing the point. There are far worse privacy invasions than tracking cookies. Part of it is because somebody chose the word tracking cookies, which is so loaded.
Sounds like somebody's following you around.
Right.
It's just to say, you already saw that ad 4 times. We're not going to show it to you on the 5th site you visit. Things like that. That's what you want.
So, are you a member of this? Standards
No, I'm
Poppy,
not. I actually don't use tracking ads. We actually avoided that whole process by
Mary Jo, let's
targeting our
clarify. Hold on a second.
content.
Wait, hold on.
I'm looking.
Are you okay?
Sorry.
What's going on?
The
What's the
window.
matter? I've heard a lot of sirens lately.
And I think somebody was trying to jump off the building.
That's what I
across
thought.
from me.
That's what I thought. I heard a lot of sirens. Yeah.
I looked out and I saw a cop grabbing a guy off the roof
my
across
God.
from me and pulling him inside.
Oh,
Okay,
my
sorry,
God.
got a little distracted.
That's why Mary Jo does not
There was
need a
bat
TV
sleeping
set.
in the corner of your room or something.
Holy cow! I wasn't.
I just looked out the window. I was like, "What the heck?" Okay.
Who needs a TV?
My mother would have said, if you're not careful, your face is going to freeze like that.
That was pretty funny, Paul. I'm glad you
scared.
caught
I was
that.
like, "Oh my God, a guy is like being pulled in off by a cop."
Well, we heard all the sirens. Moments.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
Wow.
Back to Windows Azure. I mean, tracking.
You were right, Mary Jo, when you said you moved to New York. I don't need a TV.
I don't. It's
Nope.
true. There's always live entertainment right out there. The guy is inside safely.
Thank
so
you.
no one worries.
Thank you. Did you see that on Twitter? You should tweet that right now, Mary Jo. Just if you want a moment to tweet that, go ahead. Mary Jo, what's her name's not here. We can't remember her last name or where she went. But
that's awful, isn't it? I can't
terrible.
She went. I know.
Chat room. Do you know where Mary Jo Foley went? Do you have any idea? What time is it in France? They want to know.
Yeah, it's almost 8:30.
Vegas? Vegas? She went to Vegas?
No,
she passed out? We ate her, they said. She's doing a show on 5 by 5
By the way, the hum that people are hearing is it's got to be this USB thing I'm using, and
it's not
I think
bad.
when I get home, I'm going to have a ritualistic killing of it. So
It's not
this will
bad.
be the last
It's okay. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not bad. She went to The Verge.
show. Yeah.
She's at beer school. Anyway, we have some theories, but nobody has any real knowledge. We'll find out next week. She will be back, of course. But, this is how it used to be. Just 2 guys sitting around talking about Windows.
Talking about Vista.
The good old days.
Let's talk about Vista, shall we?
Was it Vista when we started this show? Must be.
Yeah, it
We've done
was.
274 weekly episodes. That's more than 5
Almost
years.
exact. So that would have been what, 2005 or 6? 6?
Jeez Louise.
6?
2007. Right?
7.
Yeah.
Really? No, it had been 6 because it was before Vista, right before Vista came out.
Unbelievable, Paul.
Yeah.
We started this show when Windows 95 was still the dominant operating system.
I miss it so much. Dial-up networking.
So we've been together, you and I, for the announcement of Windows Vista, for the announcement of Windows 7. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the bits. Windows 8 RTM. I presume you've installed it on all your machines.
Actually, oddly enough, I have not. I have weird various builds on all of my machines. The machine I'm using here for this actually is the RTM version. But I'm in kind of a weird state of flux. But of course, working on the book and everything, I had different versions, and
that's got to be confusing. Actually,
yeah, it's weird. And I have to say, and I have a little bit later on about how I feel about Windows 8 and everything. But one of the things I do like about the final version is the way that apps look on the desktop. I like the new.
It's making me crazy. I have it on this USB key, and I can't install it. I want to see it.
It's so far. It's nice. I like it.
So you said what looks different?
Well, the Explorer does.
We should. We'll get to all of this. Actually, we'll get to all of this. Let's first say that who did get the bits, because I don't want people to think you could go into the store now and buy a box set.
I know. In the good old days, that's what it was, right? You would announce something, you would set a date, and then that date would come and people would go buy it. Yeah. And that's how these things worked. And now it's kind of a weird, slow rollout. So they announced RTM back on the 1st, a little over 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, TechNet and MSDN subscribers got access to the RTM versions of the various versions of Windows 8. There's Windows 8 Core, Pro, and Enterprise, depending on your subscription level and which one you have. You gain access to different versions of it. And then they also released a 90-day evaluation version of Windows 8 Enterprise Edition that will get you through the actual launch of the product at the end of October, but you can't upgrade it to the final version because that's really the one that they aim at their volume license customers, their big businesses. And then today, their software assurance volume licensing customers got it. And off the top of my head, I don't recall exactly how this goes, but basically there are a couple more drops of this thing, and then we have about a month off, and then they ship the retail version, and you can buy the computers in stores at the end of October.
So the people who have it right now are basically developers and businesses or IT guys who have to test it for business. Software assurance customers, that's all business, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, anyone who has TechNet or MSDM subscription has was probably sitting up their finger on the download button waiting for this thing here. And then you get X number of product keys depending on which kind of subscription you have and which service you're on and all that. So,
of course, hardcore enthusiasts are often TechNet. TechNet's not very expensive. MSDN's pretty expensive, but that's you get a lot with that. But TechNet's not hugely expensive. It's a few $100 a year, right?
Yeah, so the cheapest version of MSDN, I want to say, is $699. It's the operating system's version, so it's one of the ones you would get Windows 8 with, but obviously that's pretty expensive. And I want to be clear about this because this has been misconstrued in the past. I mean, both TechNet and MSDN are aimed at specific audiences, and the software that they provide to these people is not aimed for you to distribute to everyone in your family and everyone in your blog. And it's not, people sort of misunderstand it and misuse it in that way. And unfortunately, in the case of TechNet, because they do have a very low-end version of the subscription, TechNet Standard, which I think is $200 a year and then $149 a year to renew.
That's low enough that a serious enthusiast probably would buy it.
Yeah, well, but the problem is people have been abusing it. So, and I don't mean to take complete credit for this, but I, among other people, were talking about this subscription last year in particular. And since that time, they've been cutting back on the number of keys you get and all that kind of stuff. And I think people were really just abusing it. And so I looked at I have a TechNet Standard subscription myself, and I got 2 product keys for it's Windows 8 Pro only. If I had the next TechNet subscription up, which is significantly more expensive, I would also get the Enterprise Edition or whatever. But I want to say last year, I think it was 5, I think you got, and there were 10 activations on each one of them. And I don't know if the activation count has gone down. That's one of those things I need to research. But they've been significantly cutting back on how many keys they're giving out because, again, I think people are just, here's one for my daughter, here's one for my friend. Oh, you need a copy, here's a copy for you. I think people are just giving them out.
So what do you essentially now what you get is one license, or what do you get?
I'm not sure what you get through TechNet, but I think the point with Windows 8 is that we can sort of be upset with Microsoft for doing this, but on the other hand, they're making it inexpensive enough with this version that for people to use it legitimately is not going to be expensive. And so you can actually go to MicrosoftStore.com or whatever and buy Windows 8 yet. You have to wait till the end of October for that.
Right.
But when that happens, you'll be able to do that for $40. And I think at that point it becomes kind of a no-brainer. So, if you even 5 computers, you could say $200.
It's well worth it.
That's less than the cost of one Windows license.
Right.
I think they've just made it so that you really have to be going out of your way to pirate something at this point to not just pay for this thing.
All right, let's talk. What do you think? First of all, is it much different from what we've seen so far?
No. So, as we move from the release preview to the final version, really not major changes. I mean, and I have actually a hard time keeping up with this stuff because, again, I kind of moved along a little more quickly than everyone else because of the book, and I actually have a hard time. The laptop I've been using on this trip, for whatever reason, actually still has the release preview version of Windows on it. It's on a dual boot, and I don't even remember how this happened, but for whatever reason, that's what I've been sitting writing in all day, every day. And it is weird because the Explorer bits are very different, and they've really made them more opaque in this version and flat, and there's no transparency. And I like that look. I mean, I as someone who sits in the desktop all day, I like it. I like that kind of flat matte look. It's just got kind of a nice it's got a nice contrasty thing going on. It's nice. They've added a bunch of wallpapers, of course, and all that, that kind of stuff. On the start screen, they have new themes, as I call them themes. Themes is not a word that Microsoft uses, but basically a combination of foreground and background colors for all of the Metro experiences, as well as what apparently Microsoft calls tattoos, which are these background patterns that you see on the start screen. And depending on the combinations you use, they can be very, very colorful. In fact, they could be like bedazzled almost. They're like pinning rhinestones to everything or something. It's a very strange look, but you can customize that stuff, to your liking and so forth. So I would say that's probably, it really kind of frou-frou stuff, what I just described there. It's just mostly fit and finish type stuff, but really not a huge difference. Obviously the store is opened up. We can pay for apps now. There's a couple of paid apps in there. Games are available. There's some Windows games for Xbox Live.
A couple of paid apps?
Yeah, most of the apps. I wanted to do a little screenshot gallery of what it was like to buy an app. And so I started navigating through the store. There are hundreds of apps.
What you're saying is they're mostly free.
Yeah, but they're almost all free. So I went into games. I think surely there will be a paid game in here, and there isn't, or there wasn't when I did it. And I thought, well, that's odd. Well, I'll go productivity. There's got to be something in here. Productivity. Nope. And you really have to look. Actually, I think there was one game. It might have been an educational title, which I didn't feel like buying. But you really have to kind of look to find a paid app at this point. I think obviously that's going to change over time, but that stuff's all live, and that's very interesting. The Xbox Live stuff is semi-live in the sense that there are a handful of games for Windows 8. They're Xbox Live games. You can actually get achievements in them. You can play the games now and get achievements and all that stuff. That all works. That's kind of interesting. The interaction between Xbox Live, the games app, and the Windows Store is all in there, and that was something that we had to kind of guess at how that was going to work before. There's a new, I don't know if it's a beta version or at least an initial version of the Xbox Smart Glass app, which is that app that's going to replace Xbox Companion that will allow you to control your Xbox and then interact with these new games that are going to work in very different ways than they do today, meaning that you can, play a game of, say, like Solitaire or Minesweeper or something like that, and then you could actually push it up onto the Xbox and continue playing the game on the console. That kind of thing. So there's a lot of little bits and pieces in there that just weren't available as recently as even a week ago. So stuff is kind of starting to light up. It's interesting to watch. And I think with Windows 8, because it's such a big change, compared to Windows 7, it's even more dramatic because the stuff that's lighting up is like stuff that, we've just never seen before. It's not like a new version of something we had before. It's like something completely different. And that's all very interesting to me anyway. I living in Windows 8 for a long time, it's cool that there's still new stuff to see.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
It's been interesting.
Any surprises?
No, although I wonder because in the same vein, just to look at a very small part of Windows 8, with those games, you can go into a game, a very simple game like Mahjong or Minesweeper or whatever, and the games are only kind of partially there. There's more stuff coming, and they're going to light that stuff up literally at general availability at the end of October. So there are going to be additional game types and maps and themes and all this kind of stuff that are going to come out when the OS actually hits the public. And so I think there's going to be, so far I think the stuff I've seen, I wouldn't call any of it surprising. But I think there are going to be some surprises coming down the road. And I think that's kind of a neat thing. Part of Microsoft's we're going to be quiet about everything, I think, is trying to hide some of the stuff that's coming. And I think there are going to be nice little bits and pieces in there. Not anything dramatic like, oh, by the way, we just shipped Windows 8.5 or something. I don't mean like that. But I think, we sort of understand there's like an Xbox Live Games app in there, an Xbox Games app, rather. We understand there are going to be Xbox games for Windows. We get that. But some of the capabilities and stuff, I think weren't really well understood and aren't in there right now, but are going to be soon. And so, that ability to, play a game, pause it, open up your tablet, continue the same exact game, using the same app on a different machine, that kind of stuff. I think that's along the vein of the types of things that are going to change. And I think those will be surprising to people, certainly. And were surprising to me as I realized they were coming. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's important to realize that this isn't the general ship date. This is just the geek take a look date. And so they still have a month or two to prepare the store and add stuff. And
and that's what's weird about it. So if they had, think about it, if they had shipped Windows 8 to developers and IT pros and you went to the Windows Store and it just didn't work, that'd be reasonable, right? Because Windows 8 isn't really shipping until the end of October. And I don't think anyone would have questioned that. And the fact that it's open, you can actually buy apps. You can trial full apps if you wanted to. You can get some of these games to see what they're going to be like and actually play them now. That's nice. They didn't have to do that, and I don't think anyone really would have complained legitimately if they hadn't done it. But I think by doing that, it's kind of a neat thing. And so if you are part of a paying subscription or want to try the trial version, or you're just a technology enthusiast, whatever it is, I mean, it's neat that you can get in and not just run the OS, but have all that other stuff happening too.
Welcome back, Mary Jo. We missed you last week.
Thanks.
It's kind of a sausage fest without you. And I'm not talking... Where were you? Chicago? I'm not talking Sheboygan bratwurst here.
Right. Ooh, kielbasa.
Kielbasa. That is the sausage capital.
Yes, a perfect place for a vegetarian to go.
Beer and brats. Really, how can you be a beer lover if you're vegetarian? What do you eat?
It's tricky. A lot of hummus. A lot of pretzels.
Pretzels are okay. Pickles are okay.
Pretzels.
But that jar with the hard-boiled eggs that have been there for 100 years, you guys.
Do you go through a phase where you eat foods that are supposed to be like hamburgers but are made out of vegetables and things like that? Do you try all that stuff?
Yeah.
And then you give up,
It's
right?
always kind of lousy, isn't it?
Yeah. Then you give up and you say, no, what am I doing? I'm going to eat leafy green vegetables.
That's how I imagine it. I would try every possible not meat, pseudo-meat patty.
It's horrible, too.
It must just be tough. Yeah, I would think.
Tempeh. What the hell is tempeh?
Tempeh's good. I make my own mushroom burger. They're pretty good.
Oh, that's all right. Okay. I like mushrooms.
Like tofu with every spice on earth.
Right. Tofurkey.
Exactly.
Tofurkey. Not a good idea. I was at the farmer's market yesterday, and I bought a big bunch of kale.
Nice.
And the guy who was selling it said, "Oh, how are you going to cook that?" And I said, "Don't you know?" So I said,
we cook kale regularly.
Well, this is what I said because I had no idea. I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to braise that." I think you're
going to braise it, yeah. Right. I'm going to make a souffle out of it. No, you just cook it like spinach. You just steam it, and it's greens.
You can eat it raw too.
You can also, and I have done this, make kale chips out of it. You bake it.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
that's actually quite good.
Yep, that is good.
Probably removes all the nutrients from it, but
no, you get salt.
Salt's a nutrient.
It's a vehicle for salt.
So you were in Chicago on a secret mission.
Right.
You're on a mission from God.
Was
also from Chicago, right? That was Detroit.
Yeah. No, that's Chicago.
Blues Brothers is
Chicago. Okay. What is the line? We're driving. We got a full tank of gas. We're driving a police cruiser. I'm wearing sunglasses. It's the middle of the night. We're on a mission from God. So you won't tell us, but it was business related?
Yes, business related in Chicago. Then off for a little fun in the Providence area where I rode a Segway.
Oh. Was it a Segway tour?
That was pretty cool. It was. Segway tour of Newport.
Oh, yeah.
2 hours on a Segway.
Do you get to go in the mansions on the Segway?
No, we cannot. Oh. We rode by the mansions on the Segway.
John D. Rockefeller be rolling in his grave. See a Segway in there. Those are amazing.
Segways are cool, though. Yeah, I was really scared to get on one, but it was really easy and really fun. We went up and down a lot of hills.
You lean forward, you lean back, you turn the knob to turn. It's not so hard.
No.
It's 108 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and I'm wearing sunglasses. Hit it. Thanks to Kevin in Dublin for that. Our top story. Where the heck was Mary Jo? Both Paul and I were puzzled because we just couldn't remember. We knew you weren't here.
Yes.
But
it was embarrassing for all of us.
But we're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Yes. And Donald Trump is apparently involved in some way.
Yeah.
I'm seeing like an older version of our notes.
Right.
This page has changes that could not be merged during synchronization.
Yeah, like I've lost part of the thing I wrote is missing now.
Mary
I know,
Jo
I'm getting that as well.
Oh, look at this is SkyDrive.
I'm never using Microsoft technology again.
We're all using SkyDrive, and there's all these Mary Jo Foley changes that I have to merge them in. I'm going to merge them. Merging. Conflicted changes are highlighted in red. How dare you put a blank line?
Why is this happening?
Why? Why? How do I merge them? Can I right-click and merge it? How do you merge it?
Wow.
Click the merge button.
I'm afraid I don't want to change anything. I think we'll just have to wing it.
All right.
I think
like we've
my
ever
tip
done
is
that
gone.
before.
Yeah, let's just talk and see where it goes.
Okay. Wow. You know what? We're going to wing it, and that means I have no idea where we're going, and I kind of like it. Item 1, Office 2013.
Yeah.
Not due till 2013. Well, that makes sense. Do you think they release it in 2012?
Well, they're releasing a preview version in 2012 with the Windows RT product, right? But maybe Mary Jo has a better memory of this. I thought the release date stuff for this was all over the map. I mean, the last I recall was that it had been delayed until May 2013. And I just received word that actually it's going to be happening much more quickly than that. It will now ship in January, February timeframe. And actually, I think Mary Jo is saying that this corresponds to something she had previously discussed.
Yeah, so Edit, you're right. Your memory is correct. That there were some rumors. You do not have Alzheimer's. Your memory was correct. There were rumors for a bit that something was happening in May 2013, that could be the Office 2013 launch. But then a couple of roadmap leaks happened earlier this summer that indicated they were probably going to RTM Office 2013 this year, like very late in the year, November or December, but hold off on the launch and the general availability till early next year, which makes sense because of the holidays and all, right? So I think you're just hearing, yes, they're still on track. And that's good.
This is business as usual. There's nothing
business
to see
as
here.
usual,
Move along.
which is good because there have been rumors they were off track. So maybe they're on track.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, this is not something I've heard, but this is the one thing I guess I'm wondering now if they've moved it up. Remember that the big deal with Office 2013 is that it's not just Office. It's like this, every single thing with an Office logo on it is part of this update. And it seems like some of the stuff is going to be ready a lot more quickly, like Exchange 2015 and SharePoint 2015. And some of the speculation earlier was around, which part of this is holding it all back. And I wonder if they've, in fact, just got that thing back on track, cut off some features, however they do that, or if maybe they are going to spread out the release a little bit this time, which is what they did not originally plan to do. But I don't know.
They didn't. When they announced the original preview back at the start of this year, they said everything's in sync, right? Like, we're going to keep everything in sync. You're going to have your client apps, your server apps, and your services all at the exact same time. So previews together and final release together. Then I did hear some people speculating Link was further behind everything else because when they got the preview bits, they were like, there's not that much new in Link. Maybe they're holding back on that. But maybe there's just not that much happening in Link compared to the other things.
Maybe Link becomes Skype Pro or something.
I like it. Skype Pro.
We already have SkyDrive Pro. Do we need a Skype Pro?
Skype Pro.
No, we do need a Skype Pro. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as long as they don't ruin Skype Amateur, I'm happy.
Right.
I'm happy.
Yes. So May, I've heard recently, what was that May 2013 date?
Right.
Some people I have been talking to were speculating that could be the launch date for Office on iPad.
Ooh.
Okay.
Which
why would they announce something but that's like almost a year from now.
It is. But I think they want to give their own platforms a leg up, right? Like when Windows RT comes out, when you have Surface RT and it's running Office, you don't want to say, and here's Office for iPad. So we're going to help iPad compete with this thing we just are rolling out to compete with the iPad. I think they should give them a little leg up, perhaps.
Oh, definitely. Even I think they might even consider never doing Office on the other platforms, frankly. But
that's the announcement in May. No, we're not doing it.
We're not doing this.
After months of speculation and development, we have decided no, we're not.
We thought we'd keep you hanging for 8 months, but we're going to tell you now, not going to do it.
You might want to think about an RT tablet.
Well, is there anything else it could be, or does it have to be in the Office arena
for May?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could it be an update to
like
Office 365? Mac Office. Wait a minute. We're way overdue for Mac Office.
Yep.
I like that. Mac Office is stagger step. It's not concomitant development. In fact, it's a different team, different code base. But
it's really it's kind of silly when you think about it. It seems like they should be in more of a lockstep.
Well, yeah. Mac Office, sometimes it's ahead.
But it hasn't been
but I mean,
a while,
it just from not that they're making big changes to the document formats or anything like that, but it seems like they should want to align that stuff. I think there are bigger instances now of mixed case scenarios where businesses will have some guys on Macs and some guys on PCs, and it doesn't make sense for them to be using a 3-year-old version of Office that may or may not work with the documents the other guys are creating.
Well, I'm going to go with that rumor. I like that rumor. And if you were going to announce a Mac Office update,
rumors made up while you wait. Give us a general product line you would like a rumor about.
It's all BS. Let's just make it up.
It's like a Mad Lib. Like, insert a Microsoft product, insert a date.
Office for Xbox. I like that, Bing Bong.
Yeah.
There you go.
Office for Xbox. Have you ever typed using a controller?
Actually, the Xbox is getting Internet Explorer, so it's conceivable that you could load our show notes in SkyDrive using OneNote through the web app in Internet Explorer.
This has been my goal, to be able to run the entire network via Xbox 360. It's everything. Get that box out of my face. And you're making me jealous now. Has been a more important day for Microsoft. Windows 8 ships at midnight tonight, but they had a very big event in New York City. 4-hour presentation from the Microsoft crew. And guess who had to sit through each and every minute of those 4 hours?
I would do it again in a heartbeat, baby.
Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley together at last. Look at that. We didn't even have to do a double box or anything. Thanks to our friends at CNET who provided some space for you and some bandwidth. So you're just down.
Than I look. Why do you look so tall?
You're just down the road, I guess. I gather.
Because I'm slouching.
Should I? Now, I have, Microsoft, of course, we didn't know this ahead of time, and I wish I had, but they streamed it.
Yeah.
And I watched as much as I could, but, I have a life. I couldn't sit there for 4 hours.
What is that like, Leo?
That's my question to you, Paul. What was it like?
Leo,
a long keynote is an hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 hours.
Well, they split it up. It's like when you take the SATs, some of it's in the morning, some of it's in the afternoon.
So they let you pee, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had a food break.
Oh, good. But that is a lot. Why so long? Was there that much to talk about?
I mean, I guess there were 2 presentations, one for Windows 8, one for the Surface. They had, actually, I have to say the most valuable part of today for me anyway, and I didn't do enough of this, was you had a chance to have hands-on time with all of these devices, right? Because in the past, we could see them, but we couldn't touch them. And, of course, there was only a subset of them. And today it was like, a lot of the Windows 8 devices and Windows RT devices we've been hearing about, the Yoga, the Samsung ATIV was there, the Dells, the HPs, Acer, Toshiba, I think, was in there. I mean, basically everybody, right? So, do you want to unbox right now? Let's just, let's
I know.
Let's cut to the chase.
Like money shot.
Let's give a little explanation. So the second keynote of today was the Surface keynote. Steven Sinofsky was there, and Panos Panay, who heads up the Surface team, was the one who gave the bulk of the presentation. And he was super energetic. He showed everybody all the features. He showed the magnetic hinge. He showed dropping it from like about shoulder height, didn't he?
Imagine an Apple keynote where they dropped an iPad on the floor from the height of 5 feet. It's inconceivable.
No. And it survived. That's bold.
It survived. It was not damaged in the slightest.
So, one of the gimmicks they had during the Surface keynote was he had a bunch of the Surfaces, Panos Panay did, on the stage, and he was giving them out to people in the audience. Like he'd say, you want to try this feature? And he'd hand it to someone. So at the very beginning, he came down into the audience, and he came right toward me, and he's like, I've got a Surface, and then he gave it to the guy next to me.
He's going right for the
Oh, no. So that's how you got one, Paul? It was one of a few that they handed out? You were just in the right place at the right time?
That would have been too obvious.
No, those they didn't actually give them out for people to keep. They just they did.
Yeah, they did.
That's cool. I didn't know.
Mary Jo, that's terrible.
I wanted to grab it out of the guy's hands and just run out.
Of course, that's what they wanted. They actually wanted a fist fight down there.
Yeah,
journalists, and that's the headline.
We have a blogger scrum.
Journalists fighting for Surface. They can't.
I think I saw that in The Office or something.
So then we got to go afterwards over to where they were handing out some Surfaces to certain favorite journalists like Paul Thurrott, and he got to take one with him.
I'm not that favorite. I didn't get it last week, but
hey, I'm getting one tomorrow. You could have gone to the store. I mean, I'm getting one tomorrow.
Go to the store, Leo.
Tonight we're going to the store.
Oh, okay. So you will have one by tomorrow.
I have to buy one if I want one, but I'm still kind of on the fence.
To be fair, I also have to buy one if I want one because this is a loaner. I'm not keeping this. If I decide I want this thing, I'll pay for it. That's typically what we do anyway. So
yeah.
It's a loaner.
It's not
It's not a gift.
So Windows 8 shatters perceptions of what a PC really is.
Who said that?
I think Steven Sinofsky.
Oh, thank God. Okay. I'm like, wow, I know I was out of it.
Might have been Ballmer. Somebody said that.
That sounds like something they would say. Sure.
Yeah. Agree, disagree?
Shatters is a strong word, Leo. I redefines perhaps or evolves maybe.
It is a very big change.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't written this yet, but the final part of my Windows 8 review, I think the way I'm heading is it really just kind of makes sense on new hardware, the most sense.
That's I've been saying that for 6 months. Don't buy a Windows 7 machine and get an upgrade. And look at all the tablets we saw with touch, the laptops with touch.
It works fine on the regular stuff, but even this past weekend, or this past week, I was writing articles comparing the old version of Metro apps to the new versions of those same apps. And on my tablet, which is a touchscreen interface, I had the old version, and on my normal Ultrabook, which is not a touch interface, I have the new version. And what I found myself doing was reaching up with my finger to swipe on the non-touch screen. It's kind of disappointing when it's not.
I've had that. That's happened to me all the time because in an iPad, I'm just used to touching.
Yeah.
And I think that does happen.
What happened?
No, I was just trying to fix my mic.
Yeah, it's not broken. What I'm doing, because we're getting a little echo from the two of you, is I'm manually switching back and forth.
So we'll try to talk over each other as much as possible.
Yeah, because that's going to make it really hard for me to figure out who's talking at any given. So
I'll try to treat this more like a walkie-talkie type conversation.
Yeah, before you speak, flap your gums a little bit, and I'll know.
I usually do.
I'll know who it is. That's speaking. I'm still looking, and I apologize. I played a video, but it was from the Build conference. I'm trying to find the keynote video. Microsoft streamed the whole thing, which is great.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm very grateful to them for doing that. Thank you. Chat room is giving me the link.
They're going to stream Monday's Windows Phone event as well.
Fantastic. Are there any points that you would like to... this is interesting. This is just a stream that's been running since early this morning. They say, if you want to watch the launch, rewind back to the hour 17 mark.
That's great.
Apparently they just left it going.
Keeps on running. Yep.
That's funny.
It's like C-SPAN.
Yeah.
Any points to bring up? One thing to bring up is, and this didn't get a lot of play, I didn't think, in the launch. I thought it could have got more play, was they added, I think, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 apps to the Windows Store since yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And we knew they would do that, right?
Right. I mean, we knew there were going to be a lot. What's not in the store, there is no Facebook app, which a lot of people are very surprised about. And Bloomberg had an interesting story today saying there is not going to be a Facebook app coming from Facebook or from Microsoft. So that's interesting. Instead, they're going to have you use the People Hub and connect through Facebook there.
The website.
Is that true on RT as well as the Windows 8?
Right. Yeah. So some third party could take the Facebook APIs and develop a Facebook app.
Well, I don't really see the need for it. I mean, if you go to the Facebook website in Metro version of IE, you could pin that to your start screen. It works fine. It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time on iOS, that's all it was an app that looked like an app, but really was just. Well,
I guess the theory is somebody, and now Microsoft maintains it, but somebody made a Facebook app for Windows Phone, and I think when you're out in the go and you're doing things that integrate with stuff on the phone, you kind of need that. But
as far as accessing Facebook on a Windows RT or a Windows 8 device, seems like the normal way you would do it on a PC works fine, right? And you do that on the web. So it works.
It's not the end of the world, frankly.
It's not. But, there was today the New York Times app was new. I think the final version of the Kindle app for Windows 8 was new. There was a new version of Epicurious yesterday, and I think there's new Wikipedia, Urban Spoon. So they have a number of big name apps now.
They demoed, in fact, Wikipedia and Urban Spoon on stage. So, and I guess we're going to have to create a convention here about when we talk about apps, because there's 3 kinds of apps. There's Windows Phone 8, there's Windows RT, and there's Windows 8 Pro. How do you want to handle that?
Well, so I call Metro apps for Windows 8 and RT apps. I just call them apps.
Apps.
I would call the Windows Phone apps, and I call desktop apps applications.
Okay, so that'll be our convention going forward.
That's how I do it. I think it's important to differentiate.
Well, it is somewhat. It's certainly among this audience because they're not all the same, and I think that's one of the issues I think some people are going to have is that Microsoft isn't making a strong distinction between the 3 different OSs, and some people may be a little surprised to find that their apps don't run across the board. I guess that it was clear as I'm watching the presentation. By the way, we're soundlessly watching Steven Sinofsky take the stage.
Which is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty much everything right here, right now. They were fairly clear about, Windows RT. And I think the big selling point for Windows RT coming out of the box is that it's going to have a full Office on it, right?
So, except that, when you sort of drone on about Windows RT and how excellent it is, and then right in the middle of it, you sort of casually mention, oh, by the way, it doesn't run Windows 7 desktop application. And then you keep talking. Yes, you've mentioned the key issue with the system, but you haven't really emphasized it enough, I think. Okay. And the reason I think that is because of the 1,000 plus emails I've gotten about this topic.
I think consumers are somewhat confused, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, they very clearly are.
Not anybody who listens to this show because, you're devotees, but
I'm not even sure that's true. But
really?
By and large, hopefully that is true. But
really,
based on the email I get, a lot of people don't understand what's going on. I was telling Mary Jo earlier, I literally get email from people that say, listen, I've read everything you wrote about Windows RT. Thank you for straightening this mess out. I'm so glad I finally know what's going on. But seriously, I'm going to be able to install Outlook on Windows RT, right? It's like, seriously.
No.
It's amazing that people don't still get it.
Okay. Well, they get it now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have show notes. So I don't know really where to go.
We have no show notes. So let's go right to the money.
Money shot. Okay. Steven Sinofsky. No, you're not talking Steven Sinofsky.
No, not that much, John.
You're talking about this. This is what Paul got as a special member of the press. Paul is the John Gruber of the Windows press.
Okay, please don't ever say that.
Got a Surface.
Of course.
What?
I don't know.
No. Was Gruber there?
No,
but so what happened earlier? It was last Monday that Microsoft brought like 20 journalists to Redmond, and they gave them Surfaces to take home, and their reviews hit earlier this week.
Yes, I saw those. Quite a few, and they were a lot more generous than Apple is, frankly.
Yeah, a lot of them were Apple bloggers or people who typically are very favorable to Apple, like David Pogue got one.
Yep.
So it was interesting that.
Point the camera at the box, Paul, if you're going to do this.
Turn.
Yeah. It was interesting because of the wide variety of people who got RTs. And I have to say, I was impressed by the positive reviews. Nobody was 100% uniformly positive, but generally people liked RT.
Yeah, I think the consensus, and it is certainly borne out when you see it, is that the hardware is beautiful. It's sort of Apple-esque in its quality. Mm-hmm. It's clearly very nice hardware.
And we can see this from the unboxing, by the way, people who are listening. It is beautifully displayed in the box. It's a bigger box than Apple would send out for an iPad.
Well, no. But this is not
That's the press box? Okay.
So this I should explain. This box is a special package that includes the Surface itself, plus a bunch of accessories, plus all of the covers.
Well, is that a retail package, or is that something just for the press?
No. This is something they're giving out to the press so we can test everything.
Okay.
So I think the retail package is going to look like just this box.
And so
that's very Apple-y. It's the size of the Surface itself.
So it slides out.
Ooh, look, it's coming out the side. Watch out, Mary Jo. Out of the way, Mary Jo. I need to. It's like it's the trombone of computer boxes.
It might be. Well, the thing is, okay. So there's a power supply that's separate. So this would have to be in a box with this thing.
Right.
So maybe those two things come together. And I think this would be what you buy. So if you get a Surface RT with a touch cover, this is what you're going to get.
We'll do an unboxing of the retail package tomorrow when it comes.
Yeah. And we'll open this up, obviously. But inside this box, there's also the adapters to get this thing out to in this case, a VGA screen. And then there's also the HD adapter for HDMI.
Now, are those sold separately?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it has the covers. And so there are, why don't you hold those if you don't mind?
So there's two kinds of covers. There's
No, there's many more.
many colors, but two kinds, right? There's the touch.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yep. You're right.
What do they call them?
there's
Touch and the type.
4 touch covers. Those are the colorful ones. And then there's one type cover, which is the slightly thicker keyboardy type cover.
Right.
And so the touch covers are thin, or they're super thin, right? And they're basically they're probably slightly better than typing on a keyboard, like a glass keyboard, a screen. And then this one, the type cover, has actual physical action on the keys. And so it's closer to being like a laptop. I don't think it's
touch. Wigan in the chat room is saying touch is a 3 millimeter thick.
Yeah,
so
it's still
really
very thin.
Yeah,
but there's some feedback as you type.
Right.
Okay.
I think somebody did say that the touch covers are made out of Polartec or something very much like Polartec.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll open one of these up because we have to clip them on because of course that's the key. That's the key to the experience. So let's open this sucker up. And so this package, which I do take to be retail packaging, also has in the back a touch cover. Actually, so we just use that one when you grab that sucker out of there. And then let's see how this opens. Oh, it's sealed shut from my antagonism.
Are you a little excited? Come on.
I've done this enough not to be excited, but yes, I'm really excited.
I'm excited.
All right. And then, okay. Actually, so this is the whole thing. So it
does come with the power supply. So that's the whole package. All right. You open it up, and one of the things that they talked about in the Steve Jobs biography is how the first initial presentation of the product, and they're presenting
welcoming it into the world.
Yeah. Not covering it up with something, but there it is. You open up the box, and there it is.
It's nice, and this has got kind of a nice. What do you call this? Like it's nice.
It opens like a book. It's got a kind of flap cover.
It's got that little flap where you can pull the device out. Right,
again, very nice. I love that. Yeah,
and it's just like an iPad widescreen though.
Yeah, I mean that's noticeable difference. We're used to the 4:3 aspect ratio of the iPad, and it's clearly 16:9.
Yeah, there's a tiny bit of documentation in the back, and that's it. I mean, that's the whole thing. So it's. In the box is the device and the power supply. And
is the power supply like a brick? Is it more like a PC power supply? It's not. Is it USB?
Exactly. So no, it's a proprietary magnetic connector. This is significantly bigger. Well, bigger than the Apple type connector, right? But it's also got kind of a nice industrial kind of quality. I don't know how well you can see this. Maybe I should.
It does look like the Apple MagSafe, though. It has that same kind of
thing. This is
the dots.
I would say
it's a wall wart.
A little bigger than a iPad one, and bigger and smaller than one you would get with a MacBook.
So this does not charge with USB. It's a proprietary MagSafe style connector.
Yeah, the RT version of this has a smaller power supply than the one that comes with the Pro. I don't remember the 35 watt versus 43, maybe something.
Because this is an ARM processor versus an Intel.
Okay. All right, so let's see.
Now he's taking the plastic off of the tablet.
And so, oops, that's upside down. And I don't know. Let's see, how do we do this? We got to get the clacking sound, which I'm so proud of.
This is the magnesium back, and the kickstand comes out. And can't hear a thing.
No, I can't hear it either.
It sounded good. That was good. I heard it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a snick.
Why is it so light? All right, let's see. There we go. Houston, we're going to dock.
Do it together. Ooh, it's snicked.
Do it again.
It's nice.
So that's the touch keyboard docking.
No, I'm going to let go of it.
And we've now done exactly the same thing that Microsoft did on purpose.
Right.
By accident. We've dropped
Shouldn't do that.
It didn't crack. Well, you have to do it carefully. It's holding it. She's shaking the... I don't know if that's really something people are going to do a lot of, but...
Well, no, but it's more like the bobble hand thing where you do it by mistake.
Right.
And then it doesn't fall, and you're like, thank God. You know?
Yeah. It's Gorilla Glass, Paul?
I don't know that they said. I would imagine it must be. It's got to be.
Everything
I can't
is
imagine
now. Yeah.
It would make something without Gorilla Glass today. But okay, so how do we turn this sucker on? We don't even know.
Is there... So what are the buttons and connectors around the edges? Why don't you describe them?
So this must be the power. It's volume. So over on this side is volume and headphone.
Little rocker. Okay.
Side, not C. Because it's an RT device, an ARM device, it's USB 2. It's got the proprietary power connector. And then the little... it's sort of like a proprietary connector that goes out to either VGA or HDMI, depending on which adapter you had. And that's it. I mean...
So, important to note, does not charge through those USB connector. It only charges through the special proprietary connector. They're telling me in the chat room that it is Gorilla Glass 2, that they did say that.
Let's see if it's coming on. There we go.
Kickstand. And it comes... this is nice. I always like it when a device comes at least with some charge so I can turn it on.
Exactly. That's not the problem it used to be, right? I mean, it seems like most devices you buy these days do have something.
Yeah. And
so, we'll see what this first boot experience is.
Is there a physical orientation lock?
Actually, no, and that's interesting. No, some devices do have that. The Samsung tablet that I have has a physical orientation device. Yeah, so this thing, it's funny.
Still booting, right?
Yeah, it's doing the first. All right, so now we're doing the first.
First boot's going to be slower than subsequent boots, I presume.
So it's asking for just, choose your language, accept the licensing terms, and then it goes to the standard Windows 8 style out-of-box experience.
And it looks very much like a Windows 8 desktop login. You're personalizing it. You use your... Do you... Now, I know that this changed a little bit with the release version, that you don't log in with your Outlook or Hotmail account, right? You can. You can.
So right now... It's funny, I'm typing on this thing.
Or live account, whatever the hell they call it now.
Let's see if it lets me do it. Whoops.
The advantage, of course, of using an existing live account is that we'll then get all your logins and mail and everything.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm connected to the internet or not. I tried to connect to the CBS wireless here. We'll see.
Ah, of course.
Yeah.
There's no password.
I don't know. So the problem is because it's during... pre-boot. No. So I'll make a local account. That's fine. It doesn't matter.
Now, one of the reasons it was a 4-hour keynote is they read the EULA, and I'm going to ask Paul to do that now, if you would. Before we go any further, I want you to out loud read the EULA.
Now, we knew about this little animation. This is going to take a while, actually. If you've installed Windows 8, there's kind of a hokey little thing that occurs here. It's a video, and they'll show you, because it's a touch machine, how you activate the Edge UI.
So it's a little training for you.
A little bit. But I thought there was more. He suggested today that everyone who bought this was going to get a little how-to thing. And I took that to mean an app that you could access from a tile. So we'll see if that's in there. I don't know. And this will take a little while. But you need to play with this one. This is actually, even this low-end touch cover, if anyone who's used an iPad, this works really well. And then it's got an integrated trackpad, and
that's nice.
It works.
That's
it works
actually
fine.
great.
It's actually fairly natural, I have to say.
I'm going to let you boot up, and we're going to take a break. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, they're live from New York City, just having completed a 4-hour marathon introduction of Windows 8 RT, Windows 8 Pro for the desktop, and yes, they even held up a couple of Windows 8 phones, or Windows Phone 8s.
Yeah.
Not sure what.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Windows Phone 8 today.
And, of course, there's another event in San Francisco on Monday, which we'll also cover. We'll be back in just a second. While you're booting, let's boot.
Let's boot.
You're still booting, right?
Well, it's the first time.
It's the first time. This is not
it's
the normal
going to do a
time.
color selection.
But I was impressed. Wow, there you go. He's there.
It's actually much quicker than Windows 8.
There was this slightly monstrous change at Microsoft. I believe it was Monday. The news that Steven Sinofsky, the head of Windows and Windows Live, stepped down and a series of emails were released. Steve Ballmer's emails, Sinofsky's emails, whole bunch of things going on. Where do we even begin to start with this story? Who wants to take the lead on this one?
Oh, this one's all.
I want to tell the story of how we both found out about this.
Wait a minute. Are you going to tell it? You're going to tell the story about how you're okay.
Yeah. Should I tell that story?
Yeah, please. I just want making sure it's okay.
Yeah.
Is it safe for work?
So, Monday night of this week, I was sitting down to dinner and my phone rang and someone from Microsoft called me and said, you should check your email right now because there's some big news. So I quickly checked my email, and I saw a note about Steven Sinofsky stepping down and Microsoft promoting Julie Larson-Green to be the new head of Windows engineering. So the first thing I did after I screamed in my apartment a few times, ran around like a nut, and we'll talk about why I did that in a bit on the show. I immediately thought to call Paul Thurrott. So I called Paul, and he was in his car when I called him. But I was so incoherent about what had just happened. I just started babbling, and Paul was trying to get me to calm down.
First of all, that is not even close to what happened.
Come on,
you were screaming like you were being attacked, and the only thing I could think of was like, oh my God, something horrible is happening to Mary Jo. I got to call 911 or something. I almost crashed my car. She scared the crap out of me.
Now, but that's because of a delivery or the news?
I almost hit a telephone pole.
This is because of the delivery, though, not the news itself.
Because I picked up, I'm like, hello? And she's like, and I was like, the car's like, so, I mean, it was really funny. Mary Jo is not usually very demonstrative, I think is what I'm trying to say. So it was interesting.
So that's is that, Paul, that's how you found out, was via a phone call. Mary Jo found out from a phone call of her own. Could you give us any details exactly what that person said, apart from check your email cryptically, or was there more to it? Was there any cackling? Did there sound like there was confetti being poured or champagne being popped, or what was going on?
I think I should explain why I was gleeful.
Yes,
because
please do.
Then the next thing I did was I tweeted Steven Sinofsky is stepping down as the head of Windows at Microsoft, and I hashtagged it yay. Which got me in trouble with some people, and some people love that. But the reason I was excited about this is, as I've said on Windows Weekly before, ever since Sinofsky became the head of Windows, I've been pretty much blacklisted and been treated as someone who shouldn't be talked to, who should not be allowed to ask questions. I did get to go to things like Build and all, but I was pretty much cast to the side. And I never totally understood why. The reason I kept hearing when I asked why am I being treated this way was that Sinofsky didn't really believe that news, the way I wrote it, was a function that was worthwhile. That he felt that Microsoft should disseminate information and the press should take it, and that's how it should be done. And that's pretty much why I was put on the curb. So for me, I don't know if this is going to change my relationship with the Windows client team or not. It may not, but at least I have hope now that possibly I might be able to at least get access. Right, it couldn't get any worse. Good way of putting it.
So wait a second. So if nothing changes, you'll know it's not Steve?
No. If nothing changes, it means that the people who are in charge have kind of followed through on his vision for the way things should be done.
Well, do you think people are going to be following what Sinofsky wanted from now on, or they'll be thinking, what would Steven want? Do we want to write 8,000-word blog posts, or are they going to be like, okay, he's gone, we're going to do something, I don't know, a little different?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see, right? Because the people who are now in charge of the Windows division are people who worked very closely with him. And the one who's in charge of Windows engineering, who is Julie Larson-Green, has been working with Steven and for Steven since he was on Office, so for quite a number of years. A lot of people are saying, do you expect it to be any different? She also is part of his whole strategy and ascribes to his vision, and maybe things are just going to continue the way they are. So we don't know for a fact. We don't.
I don't know Julie Larson-Green personally, but if you look her bio up, one of the things that becomes very clear is that she is where she is because of Steven Sinofsky. So he plucked her out of some crowd somehow and decided she was going to be the lieutenant and the second in command or whatever. And now she's running the show, sort of. Although, as we have in the notes somewhere, She was not made the president of the Windows and Windows Live division, which was Steven Sinofsky's job. So it's possible there'll be some further management shakeup to come. So we'll see. But, you know, the one, again, I don't know her, and I don't mean this. I've heard things about her from people at Microsoft, some of my sources, but the one thing I would say that's negative about all this is that they have not put a different team in charge. They have basically, you know, moved him out and moved the second in command in. So, you know, I suppose part of the fear could be that it would be the same thing all over again.
Yeah. I think in part they couldn't do too much to disrupt the team at this point, though, because as we know, Windows 8 has just launched. It launched on October 26th. So I think one of the worst things they could do right now is like completely shake up the whole team when things are just starting in terms of a marketing and sales and deployment standpoint. So I think they being the powers at Microsoft who made this decision, the board, Steve Ballmer, whoever actually finally made this decision, they wanted to shake things up a bit, but not too much so that it would be completely disruptive and hurt the potential for the whole launch.
Okay, so of course everybody on Twitter was making jokes. Why must Microsoft always copy Apple based on Sinofsky's his departure?
It is, but it is stunningly similar, isn't it? I mean, it really is.
Because they're comparing it to what's Forstall being kicked out for iOS and his Maps
Forstall
debacle?
was a guy who, well, because everyone would give a lot of the credit for iOS to Scott Forstall, and yet the stories that come out about him after his ouster is that the guy was a jerk. He didn't get along well with others. He, you know, was very divisive. These are exactly the same things you hear about Steven Sinofsky. And he's one of those people where I think people outside the company, I've heard this from a lot of people, said, oh, this is a shame. I thought he was going to be CEO. He was going to be the next guy, just like Scott Forstall was going to be at Apple. And what you hear from the people inside the company is like, actually, this couldn't have been better. I mean, this guy was so hated by so many people because of his extremely divisive ways. And I think that's the story that we're only now starting to see. We're starting to hear those stories from people inside of Microsoft. We have a few I think we can share. We have others that we can't share simply because it would just give away, you know, maybe who told the story and it's a little too sensitive. But for many years now, I've been hearing these stories. And I have to contrast, as I always do, the Steven Sinofsky regime with the one that came before it, you know, and the differences in style and how I've talked a lot about how there should be a happy medium between the very laissez-faire kind of attitude of someone like Jim Allchin and the very transparent nature of Jim Allchin, and then the almost, you know, Soviet Union-like non-transparency of Steven Sinofsky that, you know, maybe, hopefully, going forward, we could have something that's, you know, somewhere in the middle of those two.
Weren't there stories everywhere about both of these people being absolute jerks and divisive before they were ousted? Pretty sure I saw a bunch of profiles on Sinofsky saying the amount of trouble he's caused in Microsoft and for Forstall.
So I can't. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so this is an interesting story too about, you know, you always can figure out things in hindsight, right? And I was kind of not tipped off, but like kind of had a premonition something was coming when I read Jay Green from CNET's profile about Steven Sinofsky, which came out right before the Windows launch. And in that profile, there was a little bit of color about how Ballmer and Sinofsky were not agreeing. And I actually went to Jay and I'm like, wow, this is like totally opposite of what I keep hearing is the case. I keep hearing Ballmer is just doing whatever Sinofsky wants. And Jay said to me, things are changing and that's not the case anymore and you should look into that more. So I think there were things happening before Windows 8 launched and before it was completely finished. I think Ballmer probably said, you know, I can't disrupt the team right now. This is like really important. We got to get Windows 8 out there. It has to ship. It has to be looking like we have a united front. And once that happened and it was time for Microsoft to start talking about what's going to happen with the next version of Windows and who's going to lead that team, I think it was the perfect time for Ballmer to decide, hey, enough is enough. I've had too many complaints from inside the company, outside the company, wherever all these were coming from, and I have to take action.
Is a profile is a in-depth profile basically like the Madden curse? If somebody's is profiled, they're going to get kicked out.
Yep.
This is very terrifying for executives everywhere.
You know, Mary Jo and I have personal bad experiences with Sinofsky, but getting the personal out of it, I think the thing I would like to drive home for people is that what he did to us is symptomatic of what he did to many, many people. And these are people inside of Microsoft, the people outside of Microsoft. There are numerous examples of people who left the Windows team because they couldn't stand being around this person, and people who left the company because this guy was so vindictive and prevented them from getting stuff done. We've watched the Windows Server team become absolutely subservient to Windows Client over the past several years, which has been very alarming. And I've had to personally deal with people on the PR side who said, I don't like what's happening here. I don't agree with it. I can't explain it. I just can tell you that this is coming from up high, and they have decided that you're on the outs, and I don't get it, because any normal person wouldn't get that. And there's no doubt that he was just doing this to everybody. Not everybody, but almost everybody, everyone that wasn't part of the core team. And, you can look at, I think we've talked about this on this podcast a lot, one of the bizarre aspects of the Windows team as it is today is this complete rejection of any technology that wasn't invented by them. That they will just re-implement things in their own way, which I believe is actually a genesis of the term reimagine there, rather than use technology from elsewhere in the company or technology that came from before they were running Windows. They were hell-bent on replacing everything in Windows, even to the tune of renaming and rejiggering with the file system and getting rid of the name NTFS, because it was NT and that was the old stuff and that was Alchin, and we can't have any part of that. And it's alarming, and it's one of those things, when the Jay Green piece, Jay Green, right, from CNET? Right. Is that the right name? I don't want to get his name wrong. When that piece came out, I got emails from readers who were like, what is this hit job? I mean, Sanofsky's really taken Windows to new heights and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you have no idea what this guy is like. This is the tip of the iceberg. There are going to be hundreds and hundreds of stories about this guy now that this has happened, and a collective sigh of relief inside and outside of Microsoft from people who were just gone after in very aggressive ways. I mean, he went after me in ways that were harmful to me professionally on purpose out of some petty, childish thing that I'll never understand because I'm actually an adult and I just don't get it. I just don't get this kind of behavior. I've never witnessed anything like this before. I suppose part of it is kind of Steve Jobs-like, although as we can discuss later, I mean, I actually think the differences between him and Steve Jobs are greater than the similarities. But it's one of those kind of weird, petulant things. It sounds insane as you say it, but now that he's gone, I feel like we should say it. So, there's a lot to talk about.
I mean, the other thing, Paul and I have talked about this, and it's kind of a weird thing when you're a journalist covering a technology and a company as closely as we both do Microsoft and Windows, and not to let your personal vendetta or anger or the fact that you're blacklisted affect the way you write about the product. I mean, it's a challenge because, I've been very vocal in what I like and don't like about Windows 8. But I tried to never let the fact that I was being held out and kept aside affect my coverage. I was saying what I had heard from people I was talking to and what I believed myself in using the products. And, that's really hard to do that, but you have to do that if you're trying to be a professional. And so, I feel somewhat bad when I tweeted the yay thing, but I also was just so relieved and just hoping that I was going to have another chance at getting more access again.
The problem with it was that a lot of the people who saw that didn't understand where it was coming from, Right. Because on the outside, the people who don't know this man, the people who don't know what's going on, but inside the company and then with people like us as well, assume that this guy is some kind of a savior or something, that he did this wonderful thing for Windows. I mean, I've actually, completely outside of my feelings for Steven Sinofsky or whatever, and his just crazy hatred of like the outside world, the one thing I can say is, Windows 7 was clearly a very competent release, but, fixing Windows Vista was not hard. It's not hard to look at something like Windows Vista and say, this is what needs to be done. It's the next step that's the trick, where you go from there. And we can look at where they went from there. And I think, I like Windows 8, but it's hard to describe this in ways that just don't sound nuts because it's this weird Frankenstein OS that melds like mobile and desktop. And there's no doubt that anyone else tasked with creating the successor to Windows 8 and plotting a path into the mobile world from Microsoft would never have come up with this. There's no doubt about this. Never would have come up with this. And, we can debate strategies and all the different ways of doing things. But, I mean, we're in a weird place now because I don't mean to say we're stuck with it. I like Windows 8, as weird as it is. But they've as a company and as sort of a product strategy, have gone down this path. And one of the many things I think we need to communicate here is I don't believe that either Mary Jo or I see any way out of this. We're not going back to like a desktop OS. We're not going to have like a Windows 9 that looks like Windows 7 and then maybe they do this other thing. I just don't see any way they can step back from this. That they're going down this path, and the path is probably heading toward we're going to get rid of the desktop, and now it's kind of one of those hell or high water type things. I mean, we've just we're just there. That's where we're going.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to bring up because since this has happened just a few days ago, I've seen people tweeting and emailing me saying, okay, now that Stephen is gone, I guess that means Silverlight's coming back, right? Or here comes the start button again. We're going to get the start button back. No, I really don't think any of these things are going to happen because I think the path has been set and the direction's been set. Even I've seen people saying, okay, so that maybe, this is going to change the whole course. And you guys have been talking about Blue being this next version, and maybe that's not going to happen now. I think all the things that we have said are going to happen, Blue coming next year, being an update to Windows 8, then followed by Windows 9, maybe by 2014. I think those are all still going to happen. And
that was a dramatic pause. But while that's happening, we might as well take a break right there because we're going to dive more into Steven Sinofsky.
Sorry, Mary Jo, Mary Jo's back, but she disappeared. You
froze for a second.
I disappeared.
It was the Microsoft brass up top at Skype going, wait a second, cut her off for a second. just
hey,
kidding.
We own Skype, don't we?
Kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not saying that actually happened. It's just a joke. Mary Jo, what were you saying before you were so rudely interrupted by the internet gods?
Sorry. And also, as I just told Paul, the brick repointers are right outside my window again. So if you guys lose me, I'll be back.
Okay.
They're banging, hammering, drilling right literally a few feet from me. So sorry. I was saying...
Do the workers have little Windows flags on their shirts? You should be careful.
Microsoft Ninjas, look out.
It's like a scene from one of those action movies, But that's not our window repointer. That's the end of that.
Yay.
Right.
A different yay. No, I was saying that a lot of people think the course now may change of what's coming for Windows, that things are going to go back to the way they were, or that Microsoft's going to do this huge 180 turn because of the change in leadership. And I don't think that's going to happen because I think the path has been pretty much already set, and they're already following along the road to Blue and then to Windows 9. So, there will be changes. The official corporate word is the reason that this all happened was because Microsoft is going to try to be more collaborative across divisions going forward, and that they didn't believe Sinofsky was the most collaborative person, and that that we should expect to see more collaboration among the different divisions instead of the divisions fighting each other all the time and doing things like perhaps, not accepting the Windows Phone operating system for a tablet. I mean, I'm just using that as a total hypothetical example. I'm not saying that's now going to happen, but I think you should expect some strategy kinds of changes and probably a reorg in the not too distant future where there'll be some shaking up and maybe some more things happening cross-divisionally that haven't happened in the past. But I don't think people should expect technologies that they wanted to see continue forward, go forward just because of this happening this week.
Somebody in the chat room is saying Microsoft's approach apparently is we dug our graves, so we might as well use them. Is that how you guys see this with Windows 8? I mean, they've gone all in with this, whether they like Sinofsky or not. There must be somebody up top who's like, well, yes, this tile thing's the way to go, even with that jerk over there. We still think this is the future. Yeah. But, I mean, are they digging their graves, or is this something that's overblown?
I'm pretty sure that wasn't the title of the memo. But, yeah, I mean, they clearly had some collective decision that this was the right way to go. I mean, you got to remember, for all of the awful stuff that we're talking about here, I mean, Windows 8 does set up Windows for the future. It does set up this kind of mobile future. There are real strategy reasons for commingling the code because I think that Microsoft's other non-Windows platforms have not necessarily done so well in the past, and this is one way to get that thing out there in the world, and that the future, as we see it, is probably the Metro stuff, not the desktop, that eventually the desktop stuff would be phased out. And so, this is part of a much wider strategy at Microsoft that involves moving from traditionally delivered software, on disk and locally installed, to services. Office is being delivered as a service this time around. Windows Azure rather than on-premises versions of Windows Server, and Exchange up in Office 365 rather than in your own company and so forth. So this is part of that broader move, and I think it makes sense, at least generally and thematically. But I don't see, anyone who thinks like, oh, this means the start button is coming back, or now we're going to be able to boot to the desktop. I don't think those people are thinking about this the right way. Clearly, there's been a collective decision at Microsoft that this is the right direction. They just decided that maybe he wasn't the right guy to get him there.
You can see different product SKUs for Windows Desktop, Windows Tablet, things that you actually would give you the desktop back as default. The back of the
Are you
XP
suggesting
days,
fragmentation? Is that what I just heard?
I'm just saying back to the Microsoft root of XP, where we had Tablet Edition, Media Center Edition, Ultimate Edition, or whatever else they had. There was like 12 different versions.
No, I know.
But it really hurts.
This stuff's hard because part of me wants to and does applaud Microsoft for taking very aggressive steps, even if I may disagree with some of the exact strategies and so forth. I mean, Microsoft historically has always done the backwards compatibility thing. When Microsoft phases in the new Start menu in Windows XP, they offer a way to go back to the old one for the people like the one from Windows 2000. They always do that kind of thing. And so with Windows 8, for the first time, I mean, they drew a hard line in the sand, and that was very much, I think, a Sinofsky strategy. Like, this is a decision. We're not going to allow that kind of backwards mode. We want people to just have to use this and get used to it. A very aggressive stance, not something that they usually do. So, again, I understand, I get it, but I do sort of applaud that aspect of it, because I think it's going to be it would be a hard sell otherwise. I think if they made this optional, if they made this something you could skip, if they made this something you would just bought in a special SKU, no one would be using it. No one.
No one would
I think something else to bring up, too, because this is a question I think Paul's gotten a lot this week, and I have, too, is people who are saying, the real reason that Microsoft and Sinofsky parted ways is because Windows 8 has been a flop. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, we don't really have much data on Windows 8 sales so far. We have the 4 million figure, 4 million upgrades in the first 3 days. We also don't have any Surface numbers yet. Whether Ballmer was quoted out of context or not out of context about it selling moderately, or however you want to present that, that's fine. But I really strongly do not believe there has been enough time and enough time for the product to be out in the channel for Microsoft to have said, okay, flop, he's out. I just don't see this as a factor at all. And it's amazing how many times that's being presented as fact. Like, oh, it's off to such a bad start, they get rid of the guy.
There's no way. There's no way.
No.
Didn't Microsoft tout like 4 million licenses were sold like in the first 4 days for Windows 8?
Yeah, and it's got to be at least 4.1 million by now, so I don't really see what the problem is there. No, I look, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at Windows 8 coming down the pike and say this is not going to be a huge thing in businesses, for example, right? That most of which are still in some process of upgrading to Windows 7. So obviously, Windows 8 will go out on new PCs, just like every version of Windows before it. I mean, people talk about what a disaster Windows Vista was, but the truth is they sold, a couple 100 million copies of that thing every year during its life cycle. And so Windows 8 certainly will sell at least that. I don't see any net negative effect on PC sales because of Windows 8. There are certainly questions around the devices and which device types make the most sense. It's kind of a weird fragmentation in the market where we have really low-end ARM devices on one side that run sort of Windows 8. We have really high-end PCs like we've always had. And now we have this new generation of Clover Trail PCs, which kind of split the difference and offer some of the benefits of ARM with all of the compatibility benefits of the normal x86 stuff, but are themselves constrained in some other ways. And so there's a lot of questions around that kind of stuff. But, again, this is Microsoft fitting what would normally be a very long and slow transition into a very short period of time. I mean, I just think we give them that. To me, it's still the right thing to do, generally. So I don't think it has anything to do with Windows 8.
Yeah, and
there's so much
to
else to complain about with it.
There is. I was going to say, to be fair, because we've just been kind of slamming everything about Steven Sinofsky here, I've also gotten some mail from people who work in the Windows division this week, or at least say they do, because they're writing under fake names because they don't feel like they can use their real names. But the way they're talking, I do believe they work for the Windows division, and they actually are saying, you guys are being pretty hard on him because there was a lot of good things he did too in terms of fixing organizationally things that were broken inside Windows, getting us to ship on time, making it more reliable when Windows releases came out. That he lived up to all the things. You know, that his kind of MO was he gets the trains running on time, and yes, he did. And
so he was Mussolini. You know, I mean, congratulations.
Come on, I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to be fair here.
No, let's not do that. That's terrible. Look, I would point you to both to the letter from Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer. I'm looking at it now just to make sure I get this right. But he basically implicitly talks about how this guy did not work in an integrated fashion with other parts of the company, and talked about the need for that to change. I mean, I find that to be really interesting, you know, that if you look at I'm grateful for the many years of work that Stephen has contributed to this company. I mean, what a generic thing to say about someone who led the Office division for many years and then the Windows division. I mean, for all of the things that you could say about the guy who did that stuff, who supposedly rescued Windows and, it's like the many years of work. You know, you were here. Thank you for being here at Microsoft.
Well, it was obviously one of the word templates for the let go employee thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. It looks like you're trying to get rid of an employee. Would you like some help? Yeah, I mean, it's damning with faint praise, you know. And I think it's important to read between the lines a little bit on that stuff because it's frankly not that difficult. I mean, we're not like code breakers or anything. I mean, it's right there. You can read it yourself. I find that to be. I just find that to be very telling.
Can we talk a little bit about Sinofsky's public image? I mean, the thing is, he wrote a ton of blog posts on the Building Windows 8 blog. He came to the forefront with all of these presentations. I can't remember another time where a Microsoft executive was getting on stage as much as somebody like this, because
almost like a megalomaniac.
You could say that, but it looked like he was very concerned with the way he was perceived, to the point where he's even commenting on other people's blogs. Former Microsoft engineer, I believe his name is like Hal Berndenson.
Berenson.
Thank you, Berenson.
Megalomaniac.
So wait, Paul, you think this is the machinations of a megalomaniac?
Here's a fact. He was the only one that posted to that blog. Everything went through him. Everything. You know, he was the ultimate micromanager. There's just no doubt about this. He just was that guy. And then he would go out. He used to write me and complain about stuff or comment on stuff. And I remember having this discussion with others where I would say, don't you have a Windows release to put out? I mean, how do you possibly have time to do this? You know, to oversee everything that's going on out in the world with regards to your product, you know? I always found that to be very bizarre. And, you know, one of the odd aspects of him, so if you imagine you're on the Windows team, right? So you have to deal with this guy. Obviously, he's the boss. And so when he sends you an email and you're on the Windows team, oh my God, you have to answer that thing, and you have to respond to every single point that he makes. The problem with him is it doesn't stop there. You could write him back and say, you know what, you're right about everything. I apologize. He will write you again, and he will write an even longer email. And now you really have to deal with this thing. Okay, so you're in the Windows division. Now imagine you're not in the Windows division, and he still writes you about this stuff. Because maybe there was some perceived slight in something that you wrote in your own blog somewhere else at Microsoft or internally in an email thread or whatever it was. And now you have to deal with Steven Sinofsky. Maybe you go back to your boss or somebody in your own chain of command and you say, what's going on with this guy? What is this? And their response is, that's Steven Sinofsky. You need to deal with this. But as is the case with the guy in the Windows division, answering an email does not put an end to the story. It goes on and on and on. And it becomes this infinite loop of you having to respond to everything that he writes. Now imagine you're a guy like me. I don't work for Microsoft. He would do this to me. Incredibly long emails. I'd respond to his points. Incredibly long responses. It's like, don't you have something to do? Like, why? How is this possible? You know, that you have time to write this stuff. It's crazy. And so, those blog posts that he wrote on the Building Windows 8 blog, the parts that he wrote, and of course everyone starts aping his style. You get these 3,800, 7,000 word, whatever, long Byzantine biblical posts about, I don't know, electrical currents or whatever the hell they were writing about. You could write that stuff so much more concisely than they did. And it was just his style. He would beat everything to death. And that is the ultimate example of a micromanager or a megalomaniac. He had to have the last word on everything.
Peter Bright is here. Dr. Pizza writes for Ars Technica, all about Microsoft. Speaking of all about Microsoft, that's where you'll find Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft.com, and her, it's not even daily blog, her hourly blog about Microsoft news. It's all she does, day in, day out, that and make beer. It's a good life. It's a good life. Occasional pizza. So I gather our software pick of the week comes from Mr. Bright.
Yeah.
What do you pick?
So, well, it's a bit of a cheeky pick because it's not out yet,
and it's from Apple, dude.
Yeah, there is a slight Apple factor going on
it's
here.
Very cheeky.
My pick of the week is going to be iTunes 11 because iTunes 11 it's lighting this sort of beacon of hope that maybe iTunes is going to stop sucking.
It's going to suck less.
Now this is totally naive and
you fool.
Idiotic of me. I am hoping. I've got this. Come on, Apple, please. I am begging for iTunes to stop sucking because
yes.
I actually use iTunes. I don't like listening to music on my smartphone because my smartphone battery is too precious to use for music. So I have an iPod Touch. I quite want to get one of the new iPod Touches.
Yeah, they look good. Yeah.
They are monstrously expensive.
How about a Nano instead? Is it too small?
Yeah, I don't want a Nano.
I think they look kind of cool.
$400 for the 64 gig
Touch
iPod Touch, which means that there's no way there's going to be a iPad Mini, by the way.
Well, I'm puzzled. I don't know where the hole in the market is.
There's no hole in the price range.
Yeah.
But the iPod is. I wish I could get my iPod to just boot into the music player because I actually really like the music player on the iPod Touch. So I use one, which means I have to use iTunes. And every time I use iTunes, I want to slash my wrists. That may not be a politically correct thing to say, but it's
true.
just...
It's true.
It's a horrible piece of software. I add a bunch of songs to it, and it puts up this stupid little modal progress bar, so I can't even use it while it's adding these songs. And then it does its volume analysis, gapless playback analysis thing, and it just grinds to a crawl. It's the most horrible piece of software. It is, and Mac diehard Mac users say, "Oh, but it's so much better in Mac OS 10." It's not. They are liars. It's a crap piece of software on the Mac. It's crap in Windows. It is wall to wall. I can't even say the word because we're not allowed to because this isn't an SFW. It's just horrific, and I know I'm going to be crushingly disappointed. I can just tell, and I know that iTunes 11 is just going to be a new user interface and the same crap underneath. And you know what? I don't even care about the user interface. I don't care that it's a spreadsheet. I like having a music spreadsheet. Music spreadsheet works. And they're going to get rid of music spreadsheet, and it's going to be the same crappy back end. But I'm just hoping. I'm trying to cling on to this one little bit of optimism that they will fix the whole app and make it just no longer miserable. So that's my pick of the week.
That's an endorsement if there ever was one.
No.
And you know what? We all agree. That's the beauty of it.
And you know what? When they release the damn thing in October, I beg you to invite me back so I can review it.
Because I know you're saying it's as bad on OS 10, but truly, it really is rancid on Windows. I mean, it just messes things up. I get more calls from people who say, I put iTunes on my Windows machine, nothing plays. I mean, it causes a lot of problems.
So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Great,
so
great pick, Peter.
I'm so hopeful, and I know, and I'm setting myself up for the biggest fall. Because
The light at the end of that tunnel, Peter, is an oncoming train.
Yep.
Yep.
That's my pick.
Mary Jo Foley, it's Enterprise time.
An equally upbeat pick of the week for us.
Oh, dear.
My pick of the week is Front, which is Microsoft's family of enterprise security. Yes. Can I give a shout out to the Enterprise show here too?
Yes. This Week in Enterprise Tech, one of our fabulous new programs.
Yes. Next on Monday, This Week in Enterprise Tech, we're going to do a CRM show, and I'm going to be on. So anyone who cares about Microsoft CRM, you might want to listen in on Monday.
I'm glad to hear it because people were thinking, oh, it's all about networking. No, we're going to cover every topic in Enterprise Tech.
CRM,
yep.
A hotspot.
Yep. Father Robert Balliser and the TWiT team, including Mary Jo Foley, Mondays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 1700 UTC on twit.tv if you want to watch live. And you can also download it, as with all our shows in audio and video. We tried to put it at a good time for people so they could watch at work. And that way the boss wouldn't get mad or something.
You should rename that show to Enterprise Essentials.
That's a good idea. TWiT Enterprise Essentials. I like it.
Somebody on Twitter recommended the name Windows Weekly Essentials.
Everything's essential now.
Yeah.
And our code name, I do like this code name, Pick of the Week, Mary Jo.
Yeah, so you know what's been cool? Since we've been doing the Codename Pick of the Week on the show, I'm getting more and more people sending in code names.
Good.
Not just future code names, but past code names too, with little stories about how they came about. And so this week is all the Bing waves. I don't know if people remember this. At one point, they were naming Bing waves, when they came out the new UI or a new release of Bing, after cities. There was an Oslo, there was a Dublin, there was a Boston, and there was a Denver. And nobody could figure out, why are they using all these city code names, a number of which they've already used for other products. So someone who shall not be named sent me a tip this week that said, you know why we use those names? We used names that were progressively closer to the Googleplex as we started getting closer to Google.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So, Oslo, we're way off. We're not the same as Google at all. Then Dublin, then Boston, then Denver. And I don't, this may be a rumor pick of the week too. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's
I love it.
What I hear.
And when
it's pretty cool
when it gets to San Jose, we know they're almost there.
He said next one, Mountain View.
Mountain View, smack dab in the Googleplex. Yeah. Wow,
so that's kind of a cool story. If it's true or not, I don't know, but it's a pretty good story. If it's true.
Like it. I think that's great. Mary Jo Foley, thank you for. I don't know what happened. We're glad we got you back. She writes about Microsoft and all about Microsoft. I'm not talking about last week. I'm talking about just a minute ago when Skype dropped.
No, you know what happened? Do you want to hear what happened?
Yeah,
this is a good story too. They're repointing the bricks outside of my window right now. There's scaffolding outside with a guy drilling, and I have a feeling this had something to do with it.
I'm surprised you're able to get on at all.
I'm surprised you.
What's this wire here that you just drilled through? I don't know.
Wait, okay, how many floors up are you?
19.
I'm on
16. Yeah.
16. Yeah. So you have, over the course of us recording this podcast for the past year or whatever, have seen more people outside of your window than I have out of mine. And I'm on the ground.
She's on the 16th floor. That's New York. That's New York. This
Spider-Man goes swinging by.
The Bronx is up, the battery's down, the people ride around in a hole in the ground, and then there's this Spider-Man up there. Wow. Hey, Mary Jo Foley, how about an Enterprise pick of the week? What do you say?
Okay. I did, as my Enterprise pick of the week, acronym soup. And the acronym soup of the week is 3 new enterprise tools for people who are business users considering deploying Windows 8. Even though we talk a lot on the show about, hey, are business users going to deploy Windows 8? Some people are, and you might want these 3 new tools that Microsoft is making available for download. One of them is the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit, also known as ADK, which replaces the Windows Automated Installation Kit, WAIK. There's also the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit 2012 Update 1, MDT, for all of you who love acronyms. And that's what lets you put all of the ADK tools into a single deployment process. And finally, last but not least, there's MAP, the Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit version 7, now supporting Windows 8 Enterprise. So all of these things are available. If you go to the Springboard blog that Microsoft has, you can get links to them and you can download them and start looking at enterprise deployments of Windows 8 for those of you who like to live on the bleeding edge.
How very exciting.
Yes. Can I give a shout out to the Enterprise show here too?
Ah, yes. This Week in Enterprise Tech, one of our fabulous new programs.
Yes. Next, on Monday, This Week in Enterprise Tech, we're going to do a CRM show, and I'm going to be on. So anyone who cares about Microsoft CRM, you might want to listen in on Monday.
I'm glad to hear it because people were thinking, oh, it's all about networking. No, we're going to cover every topic in Enterprise Tech.
CRM,
yep.
A hotspot.
Yep. Father Robert Balliser and the TWiT team, including Mary Jo Foley, Mondays, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 1700 UTC on twit.tv if you want to watch live. And you can also download it, as with all our shows in audio and video. We tried to put it at a good time for people so they could watch at work. And that way the boss wouldn't get mad or something.
You should rename that show to Enterprise Essentials.
That's a good idea. TWiT Enterprise Essentials. I like it.
Somebody on Twitter recommended the name Windows Weekly Essentials.
Everything's essential now.
Yeah.
And our code name, I do like this code name, Pick of the Week, Mary Jo.
Yeah, so you know what's been cool? Since we've been doing the Codename Pick of the Week on the show, I'm getting more and more people sending in code names.
Good.
Not just future code names, but past code names too, with little stories about how they came about. And so this week is all the Bing waves. I don't know if people remember this. At one point, they were naming Bing waves, when they came out the new UI or a new release of Bing, after cities. There was an Oslo, there was a Dublin, there was a Boston, and there was a Denver. And nobody could figure out, why are they using all these city code names, a number of which they've already used for other products. So someone who shall not be named sent me a tip this week that said, you know why we use those names? We used names that were progressively closer to the Googleplex as we started getting closer to Google.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So, Oslo, we're way off. We're not the same as Google at all. Then Dublin, then Boston, then Denver. And I don't, this may be a rumor pick of the week too. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's
I love it.
What I hear.
And when
it's pretty cool.
And when it gets to San Jose, we know. They're almost there.
He said next one, Mountain View.
Mountain View. Smack dab in the Googleplex. Yeah. Wow.
So that's kind of a cool story. If it's true or not, I don't know, but it's a pretty good story. If it's true.
Like it. I think that's great. Mary Jo Foley, thank you for, I don't know what happened. We're glad we got you back. She writes about Microsoft and all about Microsoft. I'm not talking about last week. I'm talking about just a minute ago when Skype dropped.
No, you know what happened? Do you want to hear what happened?
Yeah.
This is a good story, too. They're repointing the bricks outside of my window right now. There's scaffolding outside with a guy drilling, and I have a feeling this had something to do with it.
I'm surprised you're able to get on at all.
I'm surprised you.
What's this wire here that you just drilled through? I don't know.
Wait, okay. How many floors up are you?
19.
I'm
on 16. Yeah.
16. Yeah. So you have, over the course of us recording this podcast for the past year or whatever, have seen more people outside of your window than I have out of mine. And I'm on the ground.
She's on the 16th floor. That's New York. That's New York. This
Spider-Man goes swinging by.
The Bronx is up, the battery's down, the people ride around in a hole in the ground, and then there's this Spider-Man up there. Wow. And finally, we cannot leave the show without a beer pick of the week. This is a new feature on the show.
Yes, beer pick of the week. And this is a
bear or beer?
Beer.
Oh, let's not pick a bear this week. Okay, good.
No bear. Just beer.
Just beer.
Shout out to the TWiT Brickhouse folks who took me this week when I was out there to 3rd Street Ale Works.
Oh, in Santa Rosa. Yeah.
Yeah. And the brewmaster there, Carrie McLeod, is a huge Windows Weekly fan.
What? You're kidding?
Yeah. No, I walked in and he goes, Mary Jo Foley.
What?
How weird is that?
That
right?
is
I know.
Hysterical.
Yeah, so he sent us up a whole tray of a sample of every one of their beers. And the one I really liked was White Cat Vanilla Porter. And they brew it with real vanilla beans in the tank.
Sounds good. That sounds really good.
Cool. Yeah, he loves all the TWiT shows. He asked us to say hi to you.
God, I could get a free beer probably if I stopped by.
You might be able to get a free beer if you go to 3rd Street Ale.
It's in Santa Rosa. On 3rd Street, I guess.
I guess.
That's downtown. That's awesome. Very good. Yep. What's his name? Do you know? Do you remember?
Kerry McLeod. Kerry.
Hi, Kerry.
And it's spelled Kerry.
Kerry McLeod.
He is on Twitter, Razor Nipple on Twitter. There you go.
See, and you broke up that little thing with me and Leo.
Has to be the most homoerotic version of Windows Weekly we've ever done.
It's up.
It's in the top 5.
It's in the top 5, yeah.
We are doing a best of. If you want to, because I think you guys should take the week of Christmas off. Christmas is Tuesday, so you might have been recovered by Thursday, but I think you probably want to take a little time off. So what we're going to do is ask people to go, if you are a Windows Weekly fan, to twit.tv/best of. That's the form. It's been there all year. We should probably plug this all year because you've probably forgotten all those great moments. But if you can just give us a hint. It says, time code, date, episode number, but whatever if you can just give us a hint so that our producers can find those pieces and we'll put them together and we'll do a best of. I think we're going to do a best of. Or maybe not. Did we decide instead that we want to do the year ahead and the year behind? Okay. The year up and the year down. I don't remember.
Year behind.
Year that was.
It's the past of Windows tomorrow.
The truth is,
we can submit them. Can we submit things?
Yeah, twit.tv/best of. Yeah, because you probably have some candidates.
I already know what my best moment was this year.
I do too. I bet ours is
Mary Jo calling me on the phone when.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Yeah.
Or the guy on the ledge. That one was good too. The guy sitting on the ledge across from my bed.
That was a good moment. There you go. There you go. Paul Thurrott is the host of some other podcast on another network with some guy. Wow. But he also...
Don't make it sound so dirty.
Oh, it is dirty. He's also at the SuperSite for Windows, SuperSite. I think Andrew actually stopped by the chat room when he heard what was going on.
Andrew loves you. I think he listens to the show live many times.
Can't you keep your little slut out of my chat room?
It's important to me that you guys meet. That's all I'm saying.
I want to say up front that we're just having fun. This is perfectly fine. I just couldn't resist. Paul Thurrott, SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com. That's the website. And I love Paul, and I love it that he's doing other people. And and I hope he continues.
You really
hope he enjoys himself.
I don't know how you sleep at night, but apparently you do.
Mary Jo Foley is a big blogger at ZDNet. Her blog is so big it has its own URL, all about Microsoft.com. You can find her there. We do Windows Weekly, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I guess I'll be on time from now on. Don't want you to find someone else. I'm going to have to start sending Paul flowers and dressing nicer.
It's been like a year and a half. It's not...
I know, but I just found out about it. Just because it's been going on for a year and a half doesn't mean it's okay.
Yeah, it's true. It kind of makes it worse, doesn't it?
What happens in Queens does not stay in Queens.
By the way, is Andrew always on time?
He's early.
Oh.
You guys, you're not alike in any way. Well, except for the whole, most of it is exactly the same. But.
He's into variety. Paul likes into variety.
We do the show 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That would be 1908 UTC every Thursday. Do join in and have fun with us live because it really is fun to see the reactions in the chat room when we say things like razor nipple. And then iTunes and Zune, which is thank you, Paul Greenlee.
Rob
Greenlee. And then you're Paul Thurrott. He's Rob Greenlee. And Mary Jo is just furious.
Us all the time. He's taller and thinner than I am.
Yeah. So I'm just really pleased because, it turns out discovery is the biggest challenge.
Mary Jo is rearranging the furniture in a hotel room to be
I love
for
this.
a better,
it's
a
much
better
better
kind
now.
of fwing. We call it
fwing. The feng shui. Oh, it's perfect now, Mary Jo. You've improved the feng shui.
I'm going to be rearranging furniture next. So
that's
the next
gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
What is going on here?
My sword doesn't look like a sword. It looks like there's a piece of metal going across there. I got to find somewhere better for my sword. See this? They gave me this. This is quite nice.
What did where did he go? Leo.
And, well, it was after I canceled a few shows. Some fans.
You decided you'd go Game of Thrones on them.
It says 11D hearts TWiT etched in acid. So I don't know what to do with this. This is kind of one of those things. By the way, there's a little sword guard, but this is quite sharp. So I think I think at some point I will die by my own sword. Not me, but some nut will come in here and look for a weapon, and he'll say, "Oh, look, there's a giant sword," and chop off my head. In the light trunks in the left corner, Paul Thurrott from Rouen, France, where the sun is about to set on a beautiful full moon evening. Thank you for being here, Paul.
Sure.
Paul edits the SuperSite for Windows and has warned us that he has a mere 200 kilobit upstream connection.
I know, and it's be clear, it's kilobit.
Kilobit,
it's a term you might not have heard that term in a while.
That's about as small as you get.
It was the 20th century last time I had such a connection.
Isn't that funny? You said 1997. Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Because we had cable modem very early in Phoenix, and we never kind of looked back. So this is apparently some kind of weird ADSL hell that I'm in here.
But it's French, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Let me go change my shirt. This is way too white.
You should wear blue like us, so then we'd all match.
I know. Why would you wear any other color?
There is no other color.
I was going to say, are there other colors? Wait, they make shirts in other colors?
Windows flag shirts in celebration of today. Only the primary colors will be worn.
Right. So where were you last week?
I'll tell you when Leo comes back. It's a secret.
Okay. Did you tell me before? You must have. I mean, did you told me this before, didn't you?
Yeah, I told both you guys. But, everybody was traveling. It was hard to remember, wasn't it?
I swear, it was like old folks' home over here. We were like, where did she go? I know she said something. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
We have visiting us a couple of Britishers, Tim and Mel Hardwick. Tim is from the Channel Islands, Guernsey.
Yep.
Wonderful cream.
I heard you ask him if he went there for the money or because it was cheaper.
He says he went there because it's tax-free. There's no value added.
It still can't be cheaper there.
Is it cheaper there?
It has to be incredibly expensive there.
He says it's cheaper than the UK. On the mainland, but you would have to ship food and everything in. Lamb is cheap. There's lots of lamb. And wool. Wool is cheap. But Twining's tea is very expensive. Is tea expensive there? Because you have to ship it in, don't you? Or fly it in. Amazon is cheap. Because there's no VAT, Amazon. Oh, that's interesting. Look at there. Paul in shorts. Paul, put your pants on. Paul.
I hear one joke about how I just came out of the closet.
in shorts. In shorts.
At least I had pants on.
Sort of. People are wondering, this is the most amateurist podcast. You guys.
We like the homemade touch, don't we?
Yeah. The one other thing I'd like you to do, Peter, if you can, is tilt your camera down a little bit so that we get your head close to the top of the... There you go. Was that... What is... Did a small marsupial just wander by?
That is Millie.
Millie, the marsupial. Millie. Hey, Millie.
Here's my cat.
Yes, it's a duckbill. Oh, well, I have something for Millie. Come here, Ozzy.
I may have to shut her out.
No. Cats are more than welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, we love that.
Do those apps come with Xbox Live achievements, Mary Jo?
Yes, they do. No, they don't. We just don't know.
Because that would be awesome.
That would be awesome, especially since he's 11th Prestige and wants the world to know.
Actually, since you mentioned it, I will tell people that once you hit 20th Prestige in Call of Duty, you have the option to reset all of your stats and go back to the beginning, which I did.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So people look at me and they're like, oh, look at this little level 17 loser. And he's probably going to be really bad.
And then you kick their butts. Their booties. I love it. That must be fun for somebody who has not much of a life. So we're going to take a... Yikes! Are you okay? Are you getting thrown out? Are you okay in there?
Sorry, I just got stabbed in the back. I'm okay.
And my son, I don't know if I mentioned this. My son, 18-year-old Henry, who never really liked reading, he said, I get bored after one page. My attention drifts. Loves audiobooks, and that's all he listens to now. And he has gone through 6 or 7 books in the last 8 weeks, which is it's like he discovered reading. Thank you, Audible.
Doctor told my son that he might have attention deficit disorder, and Mark told us, and Stephanie asked him if he knew what that meant, and he said, yeah, it means I need more attention.
That's so
I said, you might have a deeper problem than attention deficit disorder.
Cute.
Leo, did I ever show you my Windows Vista Cola?
Don't open that can.
This cola is confident, clear, and connected.
Wow.
And it also comes in lemon lime.
You should just save that. That's going to be valuable someday.
There's no way I'm drinking this, Leo.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
It goes down hard.
Yes. Windows Vista. It goes down hard. Well, that's it for this edition of Windows Weekly, the best of. In fact, the last Windows Weekly of the year. We will be back in 2013 with Paul, Mary Jo, Dr. Pizza, and the gang to talk about Windows, Windows 8, Windows Phone, Windows RT, anything happening in Cupertino, Xbox. We'll be talking about it on Windows Weekly every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC on TWiT.tv. Please join us live if you can. And if you can't, make sure you download audio or video versions after the fact at TWiT.tv or wherever you find podcasts, because we really appreciate it when you listen to the show. We love your feedback. We love hearing from you, and we love doing it. It's been a great 2012. I wish you and yours the happiest of New Year's, and we'll see you right back here next week on Windows Week. Bye-bye.